And it's amazing we are live. Hello everyone, how is everybody doing on this fine morning of the State of the European Union? Welcome for this special live stream. Just for you, just for the SOTEU, I took half a day off and we will be there all morning live streaming Ursula von der Leyen's speech in the European Parliament on the State of the European Union. It's gonna be amazing, it's gonna be great, and you're going to love it. Of course, I'm here to answer all your questions. The speech in itself starts at 9, so we're starting half an hour in advance. A bit more probably because the speech always starts late. And then I'm going to set the scene until 9. Then we'll go straight to the Parliament. Well, not straight, I'm in Brussels right now, I'm not in Strasbourg, but we'll go watch the live stream and I will comment it live, we will analyze it, etc, etc. We will watch the speech in itself, so Ursula von der Leyen is supposed to speak from 9, and in principle she's announced to speak for half an hour. In practice, probably longer. I would expect 40 to 45 minutes. And then we will listen to the first round of reaction of the European Parliament, because it's not just Ursula von der Leyen making a speech and then thanks guys for coming over, I'm gone. There will be a debate. And so we will watch at least the first round of reactions of the European Parliament with the president of the different political groups, who will share, so Manfred Weber, Irex de Garcia Perez, who will share their reaction to the speech on the State of the Union. So that will be the first part. So I hope she have a nice word for you. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I personally wrote yesterday to Ursula, and then the text, okay, Ushi, come on, I'm taking half a day off for you. Can you drop a shout out for my viewers? You know, that could bring me some subs. You know, that'd be appreciated. She left me on red, but I'm confident that she will do a shout out for you. I'm certain of it. I know she will do it just for you, beloved public. But yeah, so that's the program. From now until I would say 11, probably. Hello Snow. Until 11, I would say we will watch here the speech, do a bit of analysis after the speech, see what the priorities that were announced by von der Leyen. Then at 11-ish, 11:15, I will stop the stream here and I will start another stream at 11:30. On the YouTube channel of the European Federalist. I'm collaborating with them this morning, where I will discuss with them about the speech, discuss what it meant, what were the priorities, what it means for European integration. We will also welcome a number of MEPs, Sandro Gozzi, Ruiz de Vesa, pardon. Domenic Ruiz de Vesa, I'm managing, to discuss about the speech, their reaction, what it means for integration of Europe, blah, blah, blah. And that will be, I will stop until, we'll keep going until 1:30 maximum. Then I will go to work for the afternoon, and then at 7 in the evening, I will restart a stream in French this time, where I will be welcoming a French MEP, Valérie Hayet, to discuss in French with her a reaction to the speech and discuss what's going on. But that's a bit the program for today. It's going to be an intense day for me, but it's going to be very interesting, I hope, for you. So let's set the scene. So why are we here today? The State of the European Union. So it's the big political speech of the European Union every year, every September session, every Wednesday of the September plenary session. You have the president of the European Commission, so in this case Ursula von der Leyen, who comes to the Parliament and makes a grand speech where she will take stock of what the Commission has achieved until now and explain what will be the political priorities of the EU and the Commission for the coming year. So that's the big political moment where he gives a bit a compass of what the EU will try to achieve for the coming year. This one is even more important than usual. So to give you an equivalent, it's as if your prime minister was going to your parliament and then giving a general politics speech to say, okay, what will my government be doing for the next year? So rather important stuff. This speech is particularly important because it's the last one before the European elections. So that means that Ursula von der Leyen will have to a bit look back on everything that a commission has achieved, and also look ahead, particularly given that there are rumors that she might want, maybe, she might want to come back for another term as the president of the European Commission. And so, of course, she will use a speech, probably not to announce her candidacy, nobody expects her to do so, but to drop hints on the priorities that are important for on migration, on Ukraine, etc. To drop some things to send messages to people. Okay, well, I could do some more. Like maybe there's still work to be done on a number of things. So there's a lot of speculation over that. There's a lot of speculation as well on the dynamics within the European Parliament and between the political groups, because Ursula von der Leyen is from the EPP. But lately, she's been a bit budging head with the EPP current leader, Manfred Weber, about, among other things, the Green Deal. The Green Deal, which is the big set of European policies to fight climate change. And recently, the EPP has been trying to kill some of the legislations of the Green Deal, to send messages to farmers, to try to force the Commission to put a bit more to what they feel is a bit more to the right, a bit more to the center, the content of this climate policy that they think are going too far and hurting farmers, industry, etc., etc. So it would be very interesting to see what von der Leyen will do about that, because the Green Deal still is one of the top priority of a commission. In 2019, when she became president of the commission, she said, my commission will be the commission that deals with the Green Deal. She qualified the Green Deal as Europe's man of the moon moment, to underline how important it was. So it will be watched very carefully what she will say about the Green Deal, whether she will keep going, say, yeah, okay, we'll keep going, we'll keep doing things to more regulation, more legislation to make Europe greener, to make sure that Europe will be climate neutral by 2050, or whether she will say, okay, we will cool things down, we will take more into account what farmers are saying, and so send a bit messages to the EPP whose support she need to potentially come back as president of the Commission, to say, yeah, okay, I hear what you have to say, I will adapt. And particularly since von der Leyen has been losing a few of the leading heads, let's say, of a commission, because a lot of the heavyweights of the commission, Franz Timmermans, who was the vice president of the European Commission, socialist in charge of the Green Deal, and basically who became the archenemy of the EPP, left the commission to lead the left in the election in the Netherlands. Margrethe Vestager, Commissioner to Competition, is potentially on the way out. She's trying to become president of the European Investment Bank. So depending on the decision that will arrive at the end of the week by Finance Minister, she might leave altogether the Commission. So she's losing a lot of key figures in her Commission, and we will see if she adapts and then say, okay, send a bit more, some messages to a home party on their key policy. There will be, of course, we expect discussions about Ukraine, we expect discussions about migration. The EU has been trying to sign a number of deals with third countries around the EU to get them to better protect, to prevent basically migrants from trying to move to Europe. So very recently there was a 785 million euro deal with Tunisia, which is very controversial because Tunisia has a human rights record that is not exactly the best, but at the same time it's a key country where migrants are going through to go to Europe. So the EU has made a deal with Tunisia to, basically giving them money so they prevent migrants to come. So what will she say about that? We will expect discussions about the enlargement of the EU, because since last June, the Ukraine, I'm losing track of time. Yeah, last June, the Ukraine Thank you for the follow, Jack. Since Ukraine became a member candidate country to join the EU, there's been a lot of discussion on enlargement of the EU. So the EU has currently 27 member states, but you have about 10 countries that are knocking on the door in the Western Balkan, Ukraine, Moldova, potentially Georgia. And okay, now the EU is in the phase, say, what should we do? When should we grow further? And what should we ask the candidate countries to do? And linked to that, a potential discussion on the reform of the EU, because some are saying, well, can we or can we not, should we or should we not reform ourselves before letting new members in, with all the debates around vetoes and so on and so forth. There will be, of course, this will be, of course, a taking stock exercise. The Commission von der Leyen will put for everything that she has done over the past few years. And again, it's the last State of the Union before the end of the mandate, so she wants to show that the Commission has done something. Like the Commission has published documents ahead of the State of the Union saying that the Commission has achieved 92% of the objective that they gave themselves. To take with a bit of grain of salt, but yeah, they're basically boasting. So yeah, we did the job. We did the job. Do you think she's going to mention illegal migration at all? Yes, I would be surprised, given like how it is a hot topic these days, that she will not mention migration policy at all. So I think it will be mentioned, and if she doesn't mention it, that will be interesting. But I'm sure that the political groups will mention it on their side. Like the left will mention it, say, okay, we don't like the agreement that the EU has passed with Tunisia, for instance, and we don't want that to become the model for every deal between the EU and third country, like for instance in Northern Africa. So yeah, I would expect that to be at the agenda. What else could she mention? She would likely boast what the EU has done on the digital front, DSA, DMA. Recently, the charger regulation has come into force, and Apple has announced that it would finally release a phone with the USB-C charger, which has been a 10-year battle between the EU and mostly Apple. According to Politico, there will be a secret special guest. Okay, I didn't see that. Secret special guest? Someone from Ukraine, maybe, but I mean, apart from people from Ukraine, I don't really see who it could be, but I don't know. I haven't read, so we'll discover that. We'll discover that. Darth Juncker. Actually, you bring a good point, because these speeches are often criticized in a sense that it's very long, it's not very interesting, and there's always a discussion. Okay, how do you make interesting an hour-long speech about EU policies? And it's all about like the personal stories that you can say. And von der Leyen has not always been very good at it, because von der Leyen is very communication center. She does a lot of communication, but usually it's not like you feel like it's prepared communication, like it's done professionally, etc. But it's not like it doesn't come from the gut. If you compare like the previous president of the Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, on the contrary, was a bit more of a wild card. He could go any other way, but in his speech, he was always like there was always a moment where you could say, okay, this is him like speaking from the gut, and he was making impassioned speech, talking about his history, because he has a particular history, like he's from Luxembourg, his dad was enrolled by force by the Nazis during World War II. He comes from a family, a poor family, so he has like a history that is interesting, and on which he was drawing regularly to put forward the European idea. Good morning, Kim. Fiona Scott-Morton. I don't think so. I think Fiona Scott-Morton will refuse to go to France for a while. Fiona Scott-Morton was someone who almost became a special advisor of not a special advisor, who became the chief economist of the competition unit of the European Commission. She's American, and she did work in the past with big tech, and she was shut down I was gonna say by France, not only France, but France was the one leading the charge against her because she was American, because she had worked for the big techs before. So yeah, Fiona Scott Morgan is not fond of France these days. Like she had released a paper like a few weeks ago in the British press, basically saying, France is a country of assholes, or they don't understand things, etc., etc. I'm just checking on the side because like I basically have three screen for this morning, so I'm just looking on the side when they will start the live stream. No, they're not. They're not yet. Actually, I will go there. I will show you the setup. It's a bit improvised. Like I'll show you. Yeah. So you will have on the website of the Parliament, this here will be where the speech will be, and I arranged there to have the speaker appear. Let me adjust this a bit. Tell me if the setup is good for you. So we will see the speaker, the current speaker that will be appearing on screen. So you see that Ursula von der Leyen is the first speaker. She's supposed to speak for 30 minutes. In theory, and so that way you can see who will be speaking, who will be on screen doing the speech. But yeah, it's a bit of an improvise. I didn't manage, like, particularly for the current speaker, I didn't find a way like to extract it in a proper way automatically. So it's a bit artisanal. I'll make it work. I did a bit of a test yesterday. It was working correctly, but yeah, we'll make do. And don't worry, like for the part on the top, it will be full. Once the live stream starts, I will put it full screen, so you will not have like a small image of the image cycle. But that's a bit the setup for today. What else can I tell you that will be interesting to know before the beginning of the speech? What big topic did I mention? Green Deal, migration. Digital topics, achievements. I feel like I forget something. Enlargement, the revision of the treaties. What am I missing? I feel I'm missing something. I can't put my finger on it. Yes, Ukraine. Of course, Ukraine will be mentioned, but probably just to say yes. Of course, we keep supporting Ukraine and so on. So I don't expect like something particularly meaningful on that, or nothing revolutionary contrary to what has been done until now, or just say, okay, the EU has been strong in its support to Ukraine. The treaty is going to be discussed. I had something shite. Yes, maybe she will speak a bit. Yeah, the Green Deal for sure. I put it under every climate issue. What she might be speaking of are current economic debates about the revision of the EU fiscal rules. So, the EU has, since the 90s, a set of rules that say member states are not supposed to have more than 60% debt, they're not supposed to have more than 3% deficit, etc., etc. These economic rules, fiscal rules, have been very criticized over the years and deemed ineffective because they were not. Like they were conceived in the 90s and they could not function in the economics outset of the 2000s. And right now, it was very heavily debated during the Greek crisis in the 2010s and so on. And now we are in the process where there is a revision of this rule. The EU is saying, okay, we will check this rule. We need to relook at this rule because this rule was suspended altogether during COVID. The SGP. The SGP, which is the I always forget what it is. It's the growth plan or whatever. And so during COVID, these rules were suspended because it was COVID. So the commission said, okay, the states need to have all the margins of maneuver, stability and growth pact. Yeah, thank you. The member states need to have all the margins of maneuver necessary that they want to make sure that the economy do not collapse and that people can still have work, etc., etc. So they suspended the rules during COVID, and now there is a discussion the commission has announced, okay, in 2024 we will start reapplying the rules, but maybe it will be reformed rules. And so now member states are negotiating on what these rules should be in the future. The the threshold will not change or not expected to change, like the 60% rule will stay, the 3% rule will stay. But what will change and what is in discussion is what happens to countries that are basically breaking the rules. A country, because you have I think 10 countries at least that are way above the 60% debt rule. And so what do you do with this country to bring them back below the 60% debt threshold? How much effort should be required of them? And so that's where the debate is taking place on how flexible you should be with this country to let them go back under the rules. There are debates also on should everything be counted in that? Like, for instance, we have the EU saying, okay, we want to do the green transition, etc. But then some countries are saying, well, then our investment made or debt that is contracted to finance investment in the green transition, it's to fulfill Europe's objective. Should they be taken into account when calculating the debt ratio, or should they be excluded because it's considered good debt or debt for the good cause? So you have a bunch of debates about that. You have a fight between the northern countries, the southern countries. You have fights all around. Topic she might touch on: rule of law, a classic. Some countries, Poland and Hungary, have a number of their funds that are currently froze. They can't access like billions of euros of funds because of the situation of the rule of law in their country. Whether it is the lack of judicial independence, whether it is the questions of state involvement in the press, corruption, etc. And so the Commission has suspended these funds. They are to push Hungary and Poland to take to make reforms. They've been doing some reforms. Many say that it's not sufficient, and the question is, okay, will the Commission like stay strong and say no, you haven't done enough, you need to do more to unlock the funds, or will they say, okay, that's enough, we'll let you go? So that also might be a topic that will be discussed. Will she say something about her own future? She needs to say something to appease people to have a future. Like I said, there are a lot of rumors whether Ursula von der Leyen wants to come back next mandate as the next president of the European Commission. She is, in a way, the favorite because she's an incumbent, she's already in place, she has good relation with the council, with parliament, the relations are okay, or relatively okay, so she would be the easiest candidate, probably. But she doesn't say anything. She didn't say anything. I don't think she will say anything. We will see, maybe she will, but generally speaking, she would have an interest in not saying anything. Hello, Dontreg. She has an interest in not saying anything because the second she says, I want to come back for next mandate, she becomes a political target. That makes her like a fair game to criticize, like particularly on the left, etc., or even the EPP. The EPP could criticize her or try to leverage their support to her, and make her a target. And it could also, in a way, weaken the Commission because suddenly von der Leyen would be seen as a candidate, but not someone who is just doing a job as president of the Commission. So, as someone who is the favorite, I would say she has little interest in coming early. So the live stream is starting up. I'm going to do the setup. Boom. I will put that on screen so you could tell me what you think. Okay, so it's loading up. So that's what it's looking like. They started the live stream in the European Parliament. So you see MEPs slowly arriving in the room. Let me know, like, if sound-wise it's okay. Like, can you hear what's happening? Like, no one is speaking for now, but you still have a bit of background noise. So here you have the hemicycle of the Parliament in Strasbourg. So I adjusted the sound to put at the maximum. Oh, here we have former Commissioner Maria Gabriel, who is now a minister in Bulgaria. She used to be Commissioner for Education Research Here you have Didier Reinders, Belgian commissioner in charge of justice. So we will have like all the commission will be there. Like most, if not all of the commission will be there because it's an important speech. AI. Yeah, sorry. AI. AI. Yes. AI. I would expect she would touch a word on AI. You're right. Because the EU right now is negotiating the first regulation in the world, as far as I know, on AI. It's called the AI Act. They are right now in the trilogue phase, so that means there's negotiation between the Parliament, the Commission, and the Council, so the member state, to finalize the law, which should be then finalized by the end of the year. Oh, there you go. I'm just deleting a bot. But yeah, indeed, I would expect that she will discuss AI because that's a big topic for the upcoming years, for sure. You have Laurence Beaune, if I'm not mistaken, who is the French Secretary of State in charge of Europe. I don't recognize there. Like, is it? No. Okay, those are random MP. You have Stéphane Sejourné on the bottom right, who is the president of the Renew Europe group, so the centrist. Well, I'm not going to comment everyone who appears on the screen because there's a good chance that I don't know by heart all 705 MPs. Speaking of which, since I'm mentioning the 705 MPs, so right now we have the European Parliament has 705 members. So you have elected 705 people. There is right now a text that has been approved by Council, and it will be approved very likely in Parliament to increase the number of MEPs. So the next Parliament will not have 705 MEPs, but 720. So they have 15 additional MEPs, basically to take into account demographic evolution, because the number of MEPs you have per country depends on the population. Here you have Roberta Metsola, President of the European Parliament. So for instance, France has 70. My setup got a bit much. I will just lower that a little bit. There we go. You go a bit down. Doing quick fixes. Don't mind me. So yeah, depending on the population, the more population you have, the more MEPs you have. That's basically the idea, and they're readjusting a bit the number of MEPs per population because the Parliament cannot have. The Parliament by treaty has a maximum number of 751 MEPs. They cannot be. The interpreters do the tests. Which reminds me, I'm going to check the piste audio. I'm just leaving that for a sec. Come on. I'm victim of sabotage. Okay, yeah. I'm just checking that I was in the English version because, of course, in the speech and the debate, MEPs will talk about in the language they speak in. They can French will speak French, German will speak German, Spanish will speak Spanish, etc. So you have the interpretation by the European Parliament, and I was making sure that we were on the English set. And yeah, just to finish on the MEPs, so you have a maximum 751 MEPs, but currently only 705 slots are used, and it will pass to 720 from 2024. Let's see. Most of the room is still empty. Seems punctuality is not on the agenda. Yeah, it's supposed to start at 9. It never starts at 9. Okay, it's always it's 9 right now. They will start at 9:15 at the earliest, because everyone is pouring in. You see the people are saying hi, congratulating each other. So yeah, it always it's just like Vandari is supposed to speak 30 minutes. She will most likely speak more 45 minutes at the very least. We're discussing the section of the next Commission President. Do you believe that the Spitzenkandidat system has any chance of being used after the next election? Spitzenkandidat system. So that's an informal way to select the President of the European Commission. In the treaties, you have the rule that is, after the European election, the Council, so the head of state and government, nominate a candidate for the President of the Commission, taking into account the results of the European election, which traditionally has been interpreted as the nominated candidate must be from the party that won the election, that won the most votes in the election. So in 2019, the EPP won the election, so it was supposed to be, it is an EPP president of the commission. And then once the council nominates, the parliament has a vote to approve or not the thing. You know me for lame memes. I disagree that my memes are lame. I will fight you to the death for that. But welcome. Where was I? So that's the rule. That's what is said in the treaty. Parliament is saying, and that's a Spitzenkandidat system, say, wait a minute. Actually, if the council is supposed to nominate a candidate as president of the commission, taking into account the result of the election, that means that if the parliament decides at the moment of the election, this is the candidate we want for the commission, the council must take this person. They don't have a choice because this is what the election have been saying. So that means that every political group, before the election, say, okay, if you vote for us, this person will be our candidate to become the president of the commission. And it's a way to force the council to nominate that person. For instance, in 2014, every party designated a so-called Spitzenkandidat, head of list. The EPP designated Jean-Claude Juncker. And after the election, the EPP won. And the council agreed to nominate Jean-Claude Juncker as the president of the commission. That's the only time the Spitzenkandidat system worked. Because sorry, I'm just adjusting things up slightly. There we go. In 2019, after the mandate of Juncker, Parliament said, okay, let's do it again. But Council said this time, yeah, no, I'm not into that, actually. I don't like that. Council hates the Spitzenkandidat system because they see it as the Parliament trying to take away power from it. You see Ursula von der Leyen walking to a place with, on her left, not Ursula von der Leyen, Roberta Metsola, President of the European Parliament. So, long story short, Ursula von der Leyen, here on screen, became president of the commission without being a Spitzenkandidat because the council in 2019 said, we don't want the Spitzenkandidat, we're going to nominate someone else than the parliament wants. And the parliament caved in. Long context to tell you that in 2024 there will be a question whether the Spitzenkandidat will be back. Some parties will try to do it. The Greens, the Socialists already said they would nominate the Spitzenkandidat. The EPP in its status is supposed to have a Spitzenkandidat, but they have been pretty blurry on what they're going to do. But I would be personally surprised if it comes back. Because Council does not change its mind. I don't think so, about Spitzenkandidat system. And yeah. However, there could be a way forward because, like I said, Ursula von der Leyen, if she decides to run, which is not certain, is the favorite. There's a good chance that the council would be okay with von der Leyen coming back for a second mandate. If, let's say, the EPP put von der Leyen as their Spitzenkandidat, council, who is keen on having the von der Leyen, could say, okay, fine, whatever, we'll put von der Leyen. But they would probably say, we're putting von der Leyen not because she's the EPP Spitzenkandidat, but because we consider that she's good, she was a good president of the commission, and we want her to continue. If it's someone else than von der Leyen as a Spitzenkandidat, we will have to see. It's always, you never know, but I would say it's unlikely. I would say it's unlikely that there will be the Spitzenkandidat. MEPs, the political groups will try to have the Spitzenkandidat, but I think it's unlikely that they will actually manage to do it. So the classic family pictures with MEPs, the head of groups, etc. So von der Leyen doing the rounds, saying hi to the head of groups, the vice president, MEPs that she knows, etc. etc. So that's the classic. That's the commission showing how cozy they are with MEPs. And MEPs scoring a nice picture for their social media. That's a fair game, let's say. Hello Flemar. Let me check above if I missed a comment. During my renting, no, I don't see. Oh. Livestream, you're crapping out? Goodbye. Oh, come on, come back. Yeah, I imagine that there will be a few lags here and there because, of course, this the Parliament web stream will be very solicited this morning. But yeah, hopefully it will be fine. Slowly, very slowly, MEPs are pouring in. I think we'll start around 9:15. 9:15, 9:20. Let me just check something. There we go. Hop là. Metzola Dini renders. Ah, shit. I knew that I knew I recognized this this MEP's German MEP. We had him on the channel actually this year or last year. Malte Gallet. Van der Leyen taking your seat with a jar of jam on her desk. Probably an MEP who came up and gave her a jar of jam from their country. Why not? Okay, that's you learned it here. You a jar of jam is the new must-have item for a European. Does the Charles Michel or the Council has any role during the State of the Union? They will be present. I don't know if Charles Michel is present. I know he was supposed to be in Paris yesterday. Normally, I think he should attend. But formally, no. It's supposed to be the State of the Union is the Commission, the Parliament, and then like the Council can have a reaction. The Council and not Charles Michel, but the Presidency. So the Spanish will take 5 minutes to say to react and say something, but they're not like the center of the process. Far from it. The main players are the Commission and the Parliament. And when I say okay, you have the Spanish, you have the Charles Michel, so because of course everything is always simple with the institution. In the Council, so the Council is the institution that represents member states. You have, let's say, 2 layers. You have the Council of the European Union, the Council of the Ministers of the European Union, so the gathering of the various ministers in the European Union, as a rotating presidency. So every 6 months, you have a different member states that is chairing the meetings. They are here like to chair the meetings, give some priorities, etc. This for the until the end of the year, currently it's the Spanish. Then you have the European Council, which represents the head of states and government. So
morning, dear colleagues.
okay. Roberta Metsola is asking everyone to come to their seat. We're about to start. And Charles Michel is the president of the European Council, so the guy who is overseeing the work between the end of state and government. Do you know anything about the treaty amendment proposal in the Constitutional Affairs Communication right now? No, they will make a conference this afternoon.
To welcome the President of the European Commission, can I please ask you to take your seats for this important occasion?
Roberta Metsola schooling members.
I am very pleased to welcome the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, to our European Parliament for the annual State of the European Union
classic welcomes
address. Over the last years, we have overcome a financial crisis, a pandemic. We have gone through Brexit and found new ways forward. We have stood up and
Can I add the volume? Yes, I can.
Against Russia's illegal and brutal invasion of Ukraine. We are addressing
Better?
the climate emergency. We have disengaged from toxic Russian energy, and we have set the foundation for years. So
she's taking stock of all the crisis.
The European Union today is stronger
I'm at the maximum
and more
now.
united than ever before. The world is changing, and Europe must adapt and change with it too. We must keep striving to make our Europe a place of equality, of opportunity, of access, of prosperity, where everyone can reach their potential. We must keep reforming. So we have come a long way, but even so, too many people across our union are still struggling. Too many Women still face unfair barriers. Too many of our young people
Metsa
still
is
face an
taking
uncertain
the floor
future. We need to
quite
keep
longly,
our
like for
people's
an introductory
concerns at the
speech. Like
center
she's
of all our
making
actions.
her own
And to
State of the
underline
Union.
how we will do that, it is truly my pleasure to introduce the President of the European Commission to deliver her 2023 State of the European Union address, which for the first time, I am extremely proud to say, will be interpreted in international sign language. Dear Ursula,
yeah.
the floor is yours.
So on top of the 24 language of the member state, you would have the sign language as well, which is good.
Thank you very much, Madam President, Ministers,
Ursula
honourable
von der
members.
Leyen.
In just
President of
under
the Commission.
300 days, Europeans will take to the polls in our unique and remarkable
Start with the reference of the
democracy.
election.
As with any election, it will be the time for people to reflect on the state of our union and the work done by those that represent them. But it will also be a time to decide on what kind of future and what kind of Europe they want. Among
jam is
them
already a
will
hero,
be
yeah.
millions of first-time voters. The youngest of them were born in 2008, the economic and financial crisis. As they stand in that polling booth, they will think about what matters to them. They will think about the war that rages at our borders, or the impact of destructive climate change, about how artificial intelligence will influence
AI,
their
already,
lives,
you were right.
or their chances of getting a house or job in the years ahead. Our union today reflects the vision of those who dreamt of a better future after World War II.
Classic.
A future
Go
in
back to the
which
history
a
of the EU,
union
the
of
roots.
nations, democracies, and people work together to share peace and prosperity. They believed that Europe was the answer to the call of history. And when I speak to the new generation of young people today, I see that same vision for a better future, that same burning desire to build something better, that same belief that in a world of uncertainty, Europe once again must answer the call of history. And that is what we have to do together.
She's playing the
This
card
starts
of the
with earning the trust of
the
Europe,
EU role
to
in
deal with
history,
their
the fact that it's a
aspirations and anxieties.
project of
And in the next 300 days,
extreme
we
proportion.
must finish the job that they entrusted us with. I want to thank this House for its leading role in delivering on the most ambitious transformations this union
just
has
things
ever
around.
embarked on. When I stood in front of you in 2019 with my program for a green, a digital, and geopolitical Europe,
So
I
the
know that
basic,
some had doubts.
the
And that was
keywords of the
before
von
the
der Leyen
world
Commission
turned
2019.
upside down with a global pandemic and a brutal war on European soil.
And since then, a bunch
But
of stuff
look
happened.
at where Europe is today. We've seen the birth of a geopolitical union, supporting Ukraine, standing up to Russia's aggression, responding to an assertive China, investing
China,
in
of course, big
partnerships.
topic these days.
We
the rise
now
of China,
have,
and how the EU will
a
respond to it.
European Green Deal as a centerpiece of our economy and unmatched in ambition. We have set the path for digital transition to become global pioneers in online rights. We have the historic Next Generation EU.
So yeah,
combining
she's making the
800
list.
billion
All the
euros of
achievements,
investment
everything that the
and
Commission has done since
reform,
2019.
and creating decent jobs for today and tomorrow. We have set the building blocks for a health union, helping to vaccinate an entire continent and large parts of the world. We've started making ourselves more independent in critical sectors like energy, chips, and raw materials. I would also
She is
like
referring to the
thank
strategic
you
autonomy concept, which
for
has
the
risen as
groundbreaking
a
and pioneering
cornerstone
work we did on
of EU
gender
politics
equity.
for the last
As
5-7
a woman,
years.
this means a lot to me. We've concluded files that many thought would be blocked forever. like the Women on Boards Directive and the historic accession of the EU to the Istanbul Convention. With the Directive on Pay Transparency, we have cast into law the basic principle that equal work deserves equal pay. There is not a single argument why, for the same type of work, a woman should be paid less than a man.
Speaking time you have.
But our work is far from over, and we must continue pushing for progress together. I know this House supports our proposal on combating violence against women. And here too,
current text that is being negotiated right now in
that
the
we cast into law another basic principle.
Okay,
no means no. There can be no true equality without freedom from violence.
So this regulation is basically to make sure that across all the EU, violence against women is a crime and punished as such. So it sets like minimum threshold for rape, violence, cybercriminal, etc.
And thanks to this Parliament, to Member States and to my team of commissioners, we have delivered over 90% of the political guidelines I presented in 2019.
So the 92% that she's been referring to say we've done the job.
We have shown that when Europe is bold and united, it gets things done. And our work is far from over, so let's stand together, let's deliver today and prepare for tomorrow.
Greetings from Brussels. Thanks for coming.
Honourable members, 4 years ago, the European Green Deal was our answer to the call of history.
First big topic, the Green Deal in future.
This summer, the hottest ever on record in Europe was a stark reminder of that.
Burning, flooding and all that.
Greece and Spain were struck by ravaging wildfires and were hit again only a few weeks later by devastating floods. And we saw the chaos and carnage of extreme weather from Slovenia to Bulgaria and right across our union. This is the reality of a boiling planet.
She's referring to the fact that climate change is a reality, that it's no longer a theory. It affects Europe directly.
Protect our planet.
And so we have a responsibility.
But it was also designed as an opportunity to preserve our future prosperity. We started this mandate by setting long-term perspective with the climate law and the 2050 goals.
So the EU must be climate neutral by 2050.
To being an economic one. And this has given clear sense of direction for investment and innovation. And we have already seen this growth strategy delivering in the short term. Europe's industry is showing every single day that it is ready to power this transition, proving that modernization and decarbonization can go hand in hand. In the last 5 years, the number of clean steel factories in the European Union has grown from 0 to 38. We're now attracting more investment in clean hydrogen than the United States and China together.
Okay, here she's making reference to the competition at world level on green investment, on green technologies. And there's been a lot of concerns that the US is taking over on that. And she's saying, no,
we will mark the launch of the first container ship powered by clean methanol made with solar energy. This is the strength of Europe's response to climate change. The European Green Deal provides the necessary frame, incentives and investment, but it is the people, the innovators, the inventors, the engineers who develop the solutions. And this is why, honourable members, as we enter the next phase of the European Green Deal, one thing will never change. We will keep supporting European industry throughout this transition. They can rely
so she puts industry really at the center of the future of the Green Deal, which might be a nod to the EPP. We are saying, okay, look at a bit at the economy, what industry might be looking, etc.
We started with a package of measures from the Net Zero Industry Act.
It's not just about rules, it's about what industry does.
With our industry strategy, we're looking at the risks and needs of each ecosystem in this transition, and we need to finish this work. And with this, we need to develop an approach for each industrial ecosystem. Therefore,
Europe, the European Commission.
starting from this month, we will hold a series of clean transition dialogues with
the
industry.
area will be mentioned at some point, at least by MEPs.
The core aim will be to support every sector in building its business model for the decarbonization of industry. Because we believe that this transition is essential for our future competitiveness in Europe. And this is just as much about the people and their jobs today. Our wind industry, for instance, is a European success story.
Pascal Canfin,
But it
President
is
of
currently
the
facing
Parliament's
a unique
Environment
mix of
Committee.
challenges. And this is why we will put forward a European wind power package.
Okay, first
working
announcement
closely with industry
on
and
wind
member
industry.
states. We will fast-track permitting even more. We will improve the auction systems across the European Union. We will focus on skills, access to finance, and stable supply chains.
The Commission will boost wind
But this is
production,
broader
wind energy
than just
production in
one
the EU.
sector. From wind to steel, from batteries to electric vehicles, our ambition is crystal clear. The future of our clean tech industry has to be made in Europe. This
is a reference
our
to the
task.
IRA there. How to make sure that the technologies that are essential for the green transition, building batteries, wind, renewable energy, are
Honourable
made in
members,
Europe, and you
this
don't rely on
shows that when it
dependency
comes
from
to the
China,
European
from
Green
other
Deal,
countries.
we stay the course, we stay ambitious,
And so that the
and
EU
we
must
stick to
invest to
our
make sure
growth
that
strategy.
industries stay in Europe.
and we will always strive for fair and just transition. That means a fair outcome for future generations to live on a healthy planet. A fair journey for all those impacted with decent jobs and a solemn promise to leave no one behind. Just think about manufacturing jobs and competitiveness, the topic we're discussing a lot in these days. Our industries and tech companies like competition. They know that global competition is good for business and that it creates and protects jobs here in Europe. But competition is only true as long as it is fair. Too often our companies are excluded from foreign markets
Okay,
or are
is it a reference
victims
to
of
the
predatory practices.
okay, unfair competition
They are
practice for
often
big tech and all
undercut by
that, but
competitors
also...
benefiting from huge state subsidies.
Ah no!
We have not forgotten how China's unfair trade practices affected our solar industry.
Which is interesting because
Many young
the EU
businesses were
formally
pushed
has
out
signed
by
a
heavily
deal with
subsidized
China on
Chinese
investment, which is
competitors.
currently in the freezer.
Pioneering companies had to file for bankruptcies. Promising talents went searching for fortune abroad. This is why fairness in the global economy
This is
so
a
important
part of the text
because
that
it
will be
affects
very
lives and
pleasing to the
livelihoods.
French, I can tell you that.
Entire industries and communities depend on it. So we have to be clear-eyed about the risks we face. Take the electric vehicle sector. It is a crucial industry for the clean economy with a huge potential in Europe. But global markets are now flooded with cheaper Chinese electric cars.
Name
And their
checking
price
China.
is kept
And again, a nod to the
artificially
French
low
who
by
are very
huge
big
state
on
subsidies.
striking back in China on
This is
electric
distorting our
vehicles.
market. And as we do not accept this distortion from the inside in our market, we do not accept this from the outside. So I can announce today that the Commission is launching an anti-subsidy investigation into electric vehicles coming from China.
So basically what the French wanted to do, so to fight back
Europe is
against
open
Chinese
to
domination
competition,
in electric vehicles.
but not for a race to the bottom. We must defend ourselves against unfair practices. But equally, it is vital to keep open lines of communication and dialogue with China, because there are also topics where we can and have to cooperate, de-risk,
climate change.
not decouple.
So
This
here
will
she's
be
referring
my
to
approach
the new
with
approach
the Chinese
of the EU and
leadership
China,
at the
de-risking, not decoupling. So
EU-China summit
keeping
later this
relations
year.
with China while reducing the
Meine
the
Damen und
risk it
Herren
represents for the EU, but without like
and
stopping all
gentlemen.
changes with exchanges with
The European
with
Union,
China, contrary to what the US would
are
like to do to an
proud
extent.
of our cultural diversity.
She switched to German. Traditionally, she makes the speech in English, French, and
We
German.
have a unique blend of languages, music, art, traditions, crafts, cuisines.
Okay, we are in the cultural
We're
aspect.
also a Europe which is a continent of unique biological diversity.
Okay,
About
we're back on the Green Deal.
6,500
Okay.
species which are only found in Europe, nowhere else in the world. In northern Europe, we have the World Natural Heritage Site, the Wadden Sea, which is a unique habitat offering a home to rare species of
Thanks for
flora
the sub.
and fauna.
See you at
And it's
11:30.
a vital resource for millions of migratory birds. And with the Baltic, we have the largest area of brackish water in the world. And south of that, we have the European plain. We have vast tracts of moorland and wetland.
I wonder if she will mention the nature restoration law debacle, where she's against the EPP.
Allies against climate change. Protected moors and wetlands absorb huge volumes of greenhouse gases.
That sounds like very much like a nature
Secure
restoration law
regional water
reference.
cycles, and they are home to a unique biodiversity as well. We have a Europe that is a continent of forests, with the mighty coniferous forests of the north and east, the last remnants of virgin oak and beech forests in Central Europe, to the cork oak forests of Southern Europe. All of these forests are irreplaceable as a source of goods and services. They absorb carbon dioxide, they supply wood and indeed other products. They generate fertile soils, they filter the air, the water. Biodiversity and ecosystem services are absolutely essential for all of us in Europe. The loss of nature doesn't only destroy the foundations of our life, but also the feeling of what people consider
I wonder where
home.
she's going with
That
that.
is something we must protect.
It sounds very much like a reference to the nature restoration law that was fought by the EPP over the past few months.
And at the same time, we have to make sure that food security is in
And now she's
harmony
nodding
with
to the
nature.
EPP and
That
farmers.
remains an essential task. And today, I would like to express my appreciation to our farmers.
Yeah, okay. So here she's making a nod to the EPP because the EPP has been fighting part of the Green Deal, saying it's threatening
Meine
farmers, threatening
Anerkennung
food
und
security. And so she's saying
My appreciation
biodiversity
and
is
my
great, it's
gratitude
necessary,
that
but farmers are important as well.
They are always providing food for us and producing healthy food, of course,
Oh, come on.
is the fundamental task of our agricultural policy, the task of agriculture. And self-sufficiency in food is also important for us.
So she's playing on
That
all
is
the
something
classic
our farmers
arguments
are
around food
providing.
policy, food security,
It's not an easy task,
food production,
because
this
the
sort of thing.
consequences of Russia's aggression against Ukraine,
Linking to the
climate
war in Ukraine, of
change,
course,
bringing droughts,
and impact on
forest
market.
fires and flooding, but also new obligations are all having a growing impact on farmers' work and farmers' incomes, and we must bear this in mind. Many are already working hard towards a more sustainable form of agriculture. We need to work together with the farmers and people working in agriculture to tackle these new challenges, and that's the only way we can secure a supply of food.
So it's in a way she's
So we
saying,
need
like the
more
EPP,
dialogue,
you can't build a Green
less
Deal without the
polarisation.
farmers. You need to have them
And hence,
supportive.
we would like to launch a strategic dialogue on the future of agriculture in the EU. I am and remain convinced that agriculture and protection of our natural world can go hand in hand. We need both.
Just spreading the consensus builder there. It's not one or the other, it's both.
Honourable members, a fair transition for farmers, families and industry. This is the hallmark of this mandate. And it is all the more important as we face strong economic headwinds. I see 3 major economic challenges for our industry in the year ahead.
Okay.
Labor and skill
Changes.
challenges,
Okay, labor and skill.
inflation,
Inflation, of course.
and making business easier for our companies. The first has to do with our labor market. We have not forgotten the early days of the global pandemic, when everyone predicted a new wave of 1930-style mass unemployment. But we defied this prediction. With SURE, the first ever European short-time work initiative, we saved 40 million jobs.
Sure was an investment
This
fund
is
that was
and
open
was
to support
Europe's social market economy in action,
employers.
and I think we can
Employees,
be
rather.
proud of it.
So she's saying during
We then
COVID,
immediately
we
restarted
took what
our
was necessary to
economic
save
engine
the
thanks to
market,
Next Generation EU.
labor
And
market.
today we see the results. Europe is close to full employment. Instead of millions of people looking for jobs, millions of jobs are looking for people. Labor and skill shortages are reaching record levels, both here and across all major economies. 74% of SMEs are saying they are facing skill shortages. In the peak of the tourist season, restaurants and bars in Europe are reducing their hours because they cannot find the staff they need. Hospitals are postponing treatments because lack of nurses and doctors. And 2/3 of European companies are looking for IT specialists, 2/3. At the same time, millions of parents, mostly mothers, are struggling to reconcile work and family because there is no appropriate childcare. And 8 million young people are neither in employment.
No,
nor
she's
in
saying that there's a
education,
problem because
nor
there's
in
not
training.
enough
8 million.
people.
Their dreams put on hold, their lives on standby. This is not only the cause of so much personal distress, it is also one of the most significant bottlenecks of our competitiveness. Because labor shortages hamper the capacity for innovation, growth, and prosperity. So we need to improve access to the labor market, most importantly for young people, for women, and we need qualified migration.
Okay.
In addition, we need to respond to the deep-rooted shifts in
So
technology,
youth equality and migration
society,
the answer to the
and
lack
demography.
of skill
And
shortage.
for that, we should rely on the expertise of business and trade unions, our collective bargaining partners. It is almost 40 years ago since Jacques Delors convened the Val-Duchesse meeting,
Jacques
that
Delors,
saw the
former
birth
president of the European Commission,
of European
one of the
social
most
dialogue.
important, powerful
Since
commissioner.
then, social
president
partners
of the
have
Commission in
shaped the
80s.
union of today, ensuring progress and prosperity for millions. And as the world around changes faster than ever, social partners must again be at the heart of the future.
So she's trying to push
Together,
forward social
We must
dialogue.
focus on the challenges facing the labor market, from skills and labor shortages to new challenges like AI. This is why, together with the Belgian presidency, next year,
Belgium will take over the
we will
presidency of the
convene a new
EU
social
next year,
partners
first
summit
semester of
once
2024.
again at Val-Duchesse. The future of Europe will be built with and by the social partners. This is our
So
task.
big social dialogue initiative that she's announcing.
The second major economic challenge, persistent high inflation. Christine Lagarde and the European Central Bank are working hard to keep inflation under control. We know that returning to the ECB's medium-term target will take some time. The good news is that Europe has started bringing energy prices down. We have not forgotten Putin's deliberate use of gas as a weapon, and how it triggered fears of blackout and an energy crisis like in the 70s. Many
Germans
thought we would
and
not
their
make it
dependency
through the
on
winter
gas
because of
until
lack of
recently.
energy, but we made it. We made it because we stayed united, pooling our demand and buying energy together.
And indeed, the EU managed
And at
to,
the same time,
go
and
from
different to the
pretty high
70s,
use of Russian gas to
we
very
use
low
this crisis
within
to
a year and a
massively
half.
invest in renewable energy and fast-track the clean transition. We used Europe's critical mass to bring prices down and secure our supply.
And the fact
Just
that the
take
EU
this, the price
is buying
for gas
collectively gas.
in Europe was over 300 euros per megawatt hour 1 year ago. It is now around 35. 300
So last
today,
year, if you remember,
35.
like the price of energy
So
was
we
like
need to
one
look
of the
at
big
how
political
we
topics, and
can
she's saying
replicate
we managed
this model
to
of power,
bring down the
purchasing
prices of
power
energy,
at
which
the
was like the
market.
number
Model of
one problem
success
for people
also in
last
other
year.
fields like critical raw materials and, for example, clean hydrogen. The third
So
challenge
critical raw material is how do
of
you
European
put
companies
in
is
EU
about making it
the capacity
easier
to
to do business.
access and refine critical
Small
raw materials that are
companies
essential
do
for hydrogen,
not have the capacity
electric
to
batteries,
cope with
etc.
complex administration, or they are held back by lengthy processes. This often means they do less with the time they have, and that they miss out on opportunities to grow. This is why, before the end of the year, we will appoint an EU SME envoy reporting directly to me.
Okay, so she's taking the usual SME red tape box, probably to please
We
the
want to
EPP.
hear directly from small and medium enterprises about their everyday challenges. For every new piece of legislation, we conduct a competitiveness check by an independent board. And next month, we will make the first legislative proposal towards reducing reporting obligations at the European level by 25%.
Oh, so yeah, definitely something that is EPP friendly. Basically saying
Honourable members,
we've been putting too much
let's
like
be frank, this will
requirements
not
on
be
on
easy.
SMEs to report
And
back
we
on
will
many things,
need your
environment,
support,
finance, etc. And we will
because
want
this is
to
a
reduce
common
everything.
endeavour for
A new
all
position for Selmayr?
European
No,
institutions.
Selmayr doesn't care about that.
So we also have to work with member states to match the 25% of reduction also at national level. I think it's time to make business easier in Europe.
Okay, shows. There, she's really pleasing the EPP on making business
But
easier.
European companies also need access to key technologies to innovate, develop and manufacture. And this is a question of European sovereignty, as the leaders underlined in Versailles. It is an economic and national security imperative to preserve a European edge on critical and emerging technologies. This European industrial policy also requires common European funding. And this is why, as part of our proposal for a review of our budget, we proposed the STEP platform. With STEP, we can boost, leverage and steer EU funds to invest in everything from
STEP is
microelectronics to quantum
a way
computing
to
and
answer
AI,
the
from biotech
American
to clean
Inflation
tech.
Reduction Act. So an
Our
investment plan.
companies need this support now. So I urge for a quick agreement on our budget proposal.
And she's
I know I
putting
can
pressure on
count
member
on
states
this
because
House.
the EU is asking for more money for its budget to basically tackle everything, and
there's
the
more
council
when it
member states
comes
are
to
not so keen on it.
competitiveness. We have seen real bottlenecks along global supply chains, including because of the deliberate policies of other countries.
Yeah,
Just
she's
think
referring to
about
China.
China's export restrictions on gallium and germanium,
So
which are
rare
essential
earth
for goods like
materials.
semiconductors and solar panels. This shows why it is so important for Europe to step up on economic security. De-risking, not decoupling.
Back on China and the fact
I'm
that
very proud that
China
this concept has found broad
represents
support
a strategic risk.
from key partners, from Australia to Japan and the United States. And many other countries around the world want to work together.
The need for the, let's say, the
Many
democratic
are
country to work
overly
together to
dependent
secure
on a
critical
single supplier
material.
for critical raw materials. Others,
And not
from
depend
Latin
only on
America
China.
to Africa, want to develop, rightly so, local value chains, local industries for processing and refining.
Because today,
Instead of just shipping their
China
resources
has a
abroad.
control over 90% of
This
the production
is why
or
later
refining
this
of
year we will
rare
convene
earth
the
raw
first
material.
meeting of our Critical Raw Materials Club. At the same time, we will continue to drive open and fair trade. So far, we have concluded new free trade agreements with Chile, with New Zealand, with Kenya. We should aim to complete deals with Australia, Mexico, and Mercosur by the end of this year, and soon thereafter.
Okay. By the end of the year, she wants to finish Mercosur. Okay, so the deal, the trade deal with South America
delivers good jobs and prosperity.
No, it's not just meeting, dialogue,
Honourable
meeting.
members,
So
these three
there's more than
challenges,
that. There's more than
labour,
that.
inflation, and business environment, come at a time when we are also asking industry to lead on the clean transition. So we need to look further ahead and set out how we remain competitive as we do that. And that is why I have asked Mario Draghi, one of Europe's great economic minds, to prepare a report on the future of European competitiveness, because Europe will do whatever it takes to keep its
She's referring
competitive
a
edge.
very famous punchline of Mario Draghi during the crisis in 2008, where he says the ECB will do whatever it takes to save the euro.
Now, when it comes to making business and life easier, we have seen how important digital technology is. It is telling that we have far overshot the 20% investment target in digital projects in Next Generation EU. Member states have used that investment to digitize the healthcare system, justice system, transport network, and at the same time, Europe has led on managing the risks of the digital world.
Okay, so she's going
The
to mention
Internet was
DSA,
born as an
DMS,
instrument
all the digital
for
regulation.
sharing knowledge, opening minds, and connecting people. It still is. But it has also given rise to serious challenges: disinformation, spread of harmful content, risk to the privacy of our data.
Okay, so she's preparing DSA, DMS
All of
discussion.
this led to a lack of trust and sometimes a breach of
With the EU
fundamental rights
taking,
of people.
for the past 10-15 years, a
In
leading role in the
response,
world on digital
Europe
regulation,
has become the global
data
pioneer
protection,
of citizens'
content
rights in the digital
moderation,
world.
digital rules,
The
all that.
DSA and DMA are
DSA,
creating a
Digital
safer
Services Act and
digital
Digital
space
Markets Act.
where fundamental rights are protected. And they are ensuring fairness and clear responsibility for big tech. This is an historic achievement, and I think we should be proud of it. The same should be true for artificial intelligence.
Okay, we're
It
back
will
on AI.
improve, without any question, healthcare, boost productivity, address climate change. We need it. But we also should not underestimate the real threats coming from AI, mostly Gen AI. Hundreds of leading AI developers, academics, and experts warned recently in the following words, and I quote: "Mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority, alongside other societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war." End of quote. AI is a general
End of
technology
quote.
that is
Very
accessible,
important.
powerful, and adaptable for a vast range of uses, both civilian and military. And it is moving faster than even its developers anticipated. So we have a narrowing window of opportunity to guide this technology.
So again, she wants to place the EU as
And I
world
believe
leader in
Europe,
AI
together
regulation.
with partners, should lead the way on a new global framework on AI built on 3 pillars:
Okay, global
guardrails,
regulation.
governance, and guiding innovation. First, guardrails. Our number one priority is to ensure AI develops in a human-centric, transparent,
Human-centric
and responsible
AI
way.
is the
This
motto
is
of
why
the
in my
EU
political
approach
guidelines I
on
committed
AI.
to setting out a legislative approach in the first 100 days. You remember we put forward the AI Act, the world's
It's currently
first
being negotiated.
comprehensive pro-innovation AI law.
which aims to ban
And I
certain
want to
use of
thank
AI
this
that are
House
dangerous
and
and
the
regulate the
Council
rest.
for the tireless work on this groundbreaking law. Our AI Act is already a blueprint for the whole work. We must now focus on adopting the rules as soon as possible and turn to implementation.
So she's pushing for the AI to be
The second
finished by
pillar
the
is
end of the
governance.
mandate.
We are now laying the foundation for a single governance system in Europe. But we should also join forces with our partners to ensure a global approach to understanding the impact of AI on our societies. Now, think about the invaluable contribution of the IPCC for climate. This is a global panel that provides the latest science to policymakers. I believe we need a similar body for AI, on the risks and on its benefits for humanity. Yes, with scientists, but also tech companies and independent experts all around the world. This will allow us to develop a fast and globally coordinated response.
Okay, so she's playing on
Building
the
on the
idea
work
of
done by
global
the
regulation.
Hiroshima
So
process
the EU
and
can
others.
regulate, but you need global
And the
principle
third
because
pillar
AI is
is
everywhere.
guiding innovation in a responsible way. Thanks to our investment in the last years, Europe has now become a leader in supercomputing, with 3 out of the 5 most powerful supercomputers in the world. So we need to capitalize on that. And this is why I can announce today a new initiative to open up our high-performance computers to AI startups that gives them the opportunity to train their models, but in a responsible way. But this will only be one part of our work to guide innovation. What we need is an open dialogue with those that develop and deploy AI. This dialogue happens already in the United States. As you know, 7
It's a way for
major tech companies
the EU give an
have
edge
already agreed
to its
to
SMEs in AI
voluntary
to
rules
develop and
around
catch up a bit
safety,
to the
security, and trust.
to the AI
It
developers in
happens here,
the
where
rest
we
of the
will
world,
work on
mainly in the
AI
US and China.
companies, with AI companies, so that they voluntarily commit to the principles of the AI Act before it enters.
Okay, yeah, because the AI Act,
into
even if it's
force,
adopted by the end of
because
the
we
year, will
cannot
only
lose
come into
time
force
anymore.
in 2026. So it
So
says
now we should
for the
bring
2 years
all of
gap,
this work
they,
together
they should already commit to
towards
respect it before.
minimum global standards for safe and ethical use of AI. Our people deserve it. Honourable members, when I stood here 4 years ago, I said that if we are united in the inside, nobody will divide us from the outside. And this was the thinking behind the Geopolitical Commission. Our
Another
Team
big
Europe
strand
approach
of a commission.
has enabled us to be more strategic, more assertive, and more united.
How the
And
EU
that is
becomes a
more important
global
than ever.
power, let's say.
Our heart bleeds when we see the devastating loss of life
Ukraine.
in Libya and Morocco
Ah, no, okay.
after
Never mind,
the
okay.
violent floods and earthquake.
She goes back to the...
Europe will always
to climate
stand
change.
ready to
Okay.
support in
Odd.
any way we can. Or think about the Sahel region, one of the poorest, yes, yet fastest growing demographically. The succession of military coups will make the region more unstable for years ahead. Russia is both influencing and benefiting
Which is a
from
problem,
the
so
crisis.
the whole
And the
EU-Africa
region has
relation, which
become
is
fertile ground
jeopardized a
to the
bit
rise of
by the
terrorism.
Russian influence.
This is of direct concern for Europe, for our security and our prosperity. So we need to show the same unity of purpose towards Africa as we have shown towards Ukraine. This is a must. We need to focus on cooperation with legitimate governments and regional organizations. We need to develop a mutually beneficial partnership which focuses on common issues for Europe and Africa. And this is why, together with HRVP Borrell, we will work
the
on a
EU
new
foreign
strategic
minister,
approach
basically.
to take forward at the next EU-AU summit. Honourable members, history is on the move.
AU is African Union,
Russia
so
is
the
waging a full-scale war
regional
against
organization
the
of
founding
Africa.
principles of the UN Charter. This has raised immense concerns in countries from Central Asia to the Indo-Pacific. They are worried that in a lawless world, they might face the same fate as Ukraine. We see a clear attempt by some to return to bloc thinking, trying to isolate and influence countries in between. And it comes at a time when there is a deeper unease by many emerging economies about the way institutions and globalization work for them. These concerns are legitimate. These emerging economies, with its people and natural assets, are essential allies in building a cleaner, safer, and more prosperous world. So Europe will always work with them to reform and improve the international system. We want to lead efforts to make the rules-based order
it's the EU
fairer
trying to improve the relation with the developing countries, the BRICS, for instance, where, like, since the war in Ukraine, they've been not so closely to the West and saying, okay, we need to listen to what they have to say and bring them back on board.
Global Gateway is more transparent, more sustainable, and more economically attractive. Just last week, when I was in Delhi, we signed, I think, the most ambitious project of our generation, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. It will be the most direct connection to date between India, the Arabian Gulf, and Europe, with a rail link that will make trade between India and Europe 40% faster, with an electricity cable and a clean hydrogen pipeline to foster clean energy trade between Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, and with a high-speed data cable to link some of the most innovative digital ecosystems in the world, and create business opportunities all along the way. These are state-of-the-art connections for the world of tomorrow, faster, shorter, cleaner. We need more of them.
Interesting. She's pitching a bit like the link between the EU and India's. You see that as being
and
a
Global
new
Gateway is making
Silk
the real
Road.
difference. I've seen it in Latin America, Southeast Asia, and across Africa, from building a local hydrogen economy with Namibia and Kenya, to the digital economy with the Philippines. These are investments in our partners' economies, and their investment in Europe's prosperity and security in a fast-changing world. Mesdames et Messieurs les députés.
Switch to French.
Ladies and gentlemen, every day we see that conflict, climate change, and instability are pushing people to seek refuge elsewhere. I have always had a steadfast conviction that migration needs to be managed.
Interesting that she makes the migration part in French, given the debates right now in France on migration.
Patient work together with our key partners. And above all, it requires unity within our union. And this is the spirit in which the new Pact on Migration and Asylum has been established. When I took office,
it's the reference to the new way on how to deal with migration within the EU.
With this pact, we managed to strike a new balance between protecting borders and protecting people, between sovereignty and solidarity, between security and humanity. We listened to all the member states and we focused on all the migratory routes, and we translated the spirit of the pact into practical solutions. We were fast and resolute in responding to the hybrid attack that Belarus.
So when Belarus was shipping literally migrants and throwing them at the border of Poland to try to create a political crisis there.
We signed a partnership with Tunisia.
She's referring to the deal with Tunisia, the €1 billion deal to get Tunisia to stop migration, basically.
Energy, skills and security. And we now want to work on similar agreements with other countries.
Okay, and she wants to extend this kind of deals to other countries.
We have bolstered border protection. European agencies have deepened their cooperation with member states. And allow me to thank in particular Bulgaria and Romania for having shown the way by showcasing best practices on both asylum and returns. They have proved that Bulgaria and Romania are part of our Schengen area.
Okay,
Let us
so
finally bring them in.
okay, so she's
without
trying
any
to,
more delay.
she's making a push for Bulgaria and Romania to finally join the Schengen area, which has been blocked by mainly Austria, if I'm not mistaken.
Ladies and gentlemen, our work on migration is based on the conviction that unity is definitely within reach. An agreement on the pact has never been so close. Parliament and the Council now have a historic opportunity to get this over the line. Let us show that Europe can manage migration.
So yeah, she's referring to this migration pact where the Council member states finally agreed to a way to reform the way EU deals with asylum seekers.
Honourable members, we know that migration requires
It's a
constant
controversial
work,
deal, and now the EU is
that
negotiating
more
between the
vital
Council
than
and
in
Parliament.
the fight against human smugglers. They attract desperate people with their lies and put them on deadly routes across the desert or on boats that are unfit for the sea. The way these smugglers operate is continuously evolving, but our legislation is over 20 years old and needs an urgent update.
Okay.
So we need new legislation and a new governance structure. We need stronger law enforcement, prosecution, and a more prominent role.
So big focus
for
on fighting
agencies,
smugglers.
Europol, Eurojust, and Frontex. And we need to work with our partners to tackle this global plague of human trafficking. And this is why the Commission will organize an international conference on fighting people smuggling. It is time to put an end to this callous and criminal business.
Yeah, before the
Honourable
Netherlands were
members.
blocking Schengen. Yeah.
On the day when Russian tanks crossed the border into Ukraine, a young Ukrainian mother set off for Prague to bring her child to safety. When the Czech border official stamped her passport, she started to cry. Her son didn't understand. And he asked his mother why she was crying. She answered, "Because we are at home." "But this is not Ukraine," he said. So she explained, "This is Europe." On that day, that Ukrainian mother felt that Europe was her home.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Ukraine joining
Because
the EU
home,
potentially.
as she said, is where we trust each other. And the people of Ukraine could trust their fellow Europeans. Her name was Victoria Amelina. She was one of the great young writers of her generation and a tireless activist for justice. Once her son was safe, Victoria returned to Ukraine.
I think she's referring to a
document
Russian
Russia's
writer,
war
and
crimes.
she died in a bombing.
1 year later, she was killed by a Russian ballistic missile
Yeah.
while having dinner with other writer colleagues. She was the victim of a Russian war crime, one of the countless attacks against innocent civilians. Amelina was with 3 friends that day, including Hector Abad, a fellow writer from Colombia. He is part of a campaign called Aguanta Ucraina, Resist Ukraine, created to tell Latin Americans of Russia's war of aggression and
Okay, so
attacks
how to
on
get
civilians.
the Latin American countries to go on
But
the side of
Hector
Ukraine,
could
because
never
so far they've
imagine
been
becoming
very
the target himself.
weak on that.
Afterwards, he said, he did not know why he lived and she died. But now he is telling the world about Victoria, to save her memory and to end this war. And I am honored that Hector is with us here today. I want to thank you, Hector. I want to thank you, and I want you to know that we will keep the memory of Victoria and all other victims alive. Aguanta, Ukraine.
Here's the picture of the writer who was killed in the Russian strike. Staying innovation. Very long standing ovation.
Honourable members, we will be at Ukraine's side every step of the way, for as long as it takes. Since the start of the war, 4 million Ukrainians have found refuge in our union. And I want to say to them that they are as welcome now as they were in those fateful first weeks. We have ensured that they have access to housing, healthcare, the job market.
So the EU activated a special mechanism to make sure that Ukraine refugees were having everyone, Ukraine refugees were having facilitated access to jobs, to healthcare, etc.
Extend our temporary protection to
the temporary protection
in
directive.
The European Union. Our support to Ukraine will endure.
Which, ironically, it's a directive that was put in place in the beginning of the year 2000s.
We have provided 12 billion this year.
It's the first time it's been used for Ukrainians.
To help keep hospitals, schools and other services running. And through our ASAP proposal, we are ramping up ammunition production to help match Ukraine's immediate needs. But we are also looking further ahead. And this is why we have proposed an additional 50 billion euros for over 4 years for investment and reforms. This will help build Ukraine's future to rebuild a modern and prosperous country. And that future is clear to see. This House has said it out loud. The future of Ukraine is in our union. The future of the Western Balkans is in
We're
our
talking
union.
enlargement.
The future of Moldova is in our union.
So she's fully behind Moldova, Ukraine, and the Western Balkans joining the EU.
And I know how important the EU perspective is for so many people in Georgia.
Georgia, which is another country that applied, for now they have not been granted the candidate status.
Responding to the call of history. And history is now calling us to work on completing our union. In a world where some are trying to pick off countries one by one, we cannot afford to leave our fellow Europeans behind. In a world where size and weight matters,
Romania approved the candidacy,
it is clearly in Europe's strategic interest to complete our union. But beyond the politics and geopolitics of it, we need to picture what is at stake. We need to set out a vision for a successful enlargement. A union complete with over 500 million people living in a free, democratic and prosperous union.
So will she
a union complete with young people who can live, study and work in freedom. A union complete with vibrant democracies in which judiciaries are independent, oppositions are respected, and journalists are
rule of law,
classic. Because the rule of law and fundamental rights are always and will always be the foundation of our union in current and in future member states.
A little nod to Hungary and Poland to say that their commitment to rule of law didn't stop the moment they joined the EU.
And this is why the
still
Commission has made
applicable.
the rule of law reports a key priority. We now work closely with member states
Okay, that
to
was pretty
identify
short on enlargement
progress
then.
and concerns and make recommendations for the year ahead. This has ensured accountability in front of this House and national parliaments. It has allowed for dialogue between member states, and it is delivering results. I believe that we can do the same for future member states. And this is why I'm very happy to announce that we will open the rule of law reports to those accession countries who get up to speed even faster.
So every year the EU is
will
making a
place
rule of
them
law
on an
report where they look
equal
at what's the
footing
situation of
with
rule of law
member states
in every single member
and
state
support them
and
in
making
their
recommendation.
reform efforts.
And she says, okay,
And it will
we will
help
extend that
ensure that our
to
future
candidate countries because
is a union
respecting
of
the rule of law
freedom,
is one of the
rights, and
conditions to
values
join the EU
for all.
and to help guide them in the right direction, basically.
Honourable member state, honourable members.
Honourable member states. Oh, big political impair calling the MEPs member states.
The next sentence is, this is on our shared interest. Parliament, member states and Commission. This is in our shared interest. Just think about the great enlargement of 20 years ago.
So 10 member
We
states
called
joined the
it
EU in 2004.
The European Day of Welcomes. And it was a triumph of determination and hope over the burdens of the past. And in the 20 years since, we have seen an economic success story which has improved the lives of millions. I want us to look forward to the next European Day of Welcomes and the next economic success stories. I know this is not an easy road. Accession is merits-based.
Okay,
And the Commission will always
that's a-
defend this principle.
That's a little pushback
hard work
against Charles Michel, the president
and
of the
leadership.
council, who pushed for a 2030
there is already a
deadline
lot of
to
progress.
make new members join.
We
And
have
the Commission
seen the
said no,
great strides Ukraine
don't have
has
a
already
deadline,
made since we
they join
granted them
when they're ready.
candidate status. And we've seen the determination of other candidate countries to reform. So, honourable members, it is now time for us to match this determination. And that means thinking about how we get ready for a completed union. We need to move past old binary debates about enlargement. This is not a question of deepening integration or widening the union.
Okay, so
We
she
can
rejects the
and we
linking
must
of
do both.
treaty changes and
To give us the
enlargement.
geopolitical weight and the capacity to act. And this is what our union has always done. Each wave of enlargement came with a political deepening.
Okay.
We went from coal and steel towards full economic integration. And after the fall of the Iron Curtain, we turned an economic project into a true union of people and states. I believe that the next enlargement must also be a catalyst for progress. We have started to build a health union at 27, and I believe we can finish it at 30 plus. We
Okay,
have
so
started to build a European Defence Union by 27. I'm convinced we can finish it at 30 plus.
So she's
We've
saying, okay, you don't
proven
need
that we
to
can be a geopolitical
reform the
union and show
treaties
that we can
before
move
the enlargement.
fast
You can do it after.
when we are united.
So it's a pushback a bit
And I
against
believe
the
that Team
deal,
Europe also
the
works
deal that
at 30
Western
plus.
countries, Germany, France have been pushing
Honourable member,
for, saying, okay,
I know
we
this
do first the
House
treaty reform and then we do the
believes
enlargement. She say no, we can do it after.
And the European Parliament has always been one of the main drivers of European integration. It has been so throughout the decades, and it is once again today. And I will always support this House and all of those who want to reform the European Union
So reference to
to
the current
make it work
discussion
better for citizens. And
on
yes,
treaty reforms.
that means including through a European Convention and treaty change if and where it is needed.
Okay, she's supportive of the principle of treaty changes, but she said, okay, you can be after the enlargement.
But we cannot and we should not wait for treaty change to move ahead with enlargement. A union fit for enlargement can be achieved faster. That means answering practical questions about how a union of over 30 countries will work in practice, and in particular about our capacity to act. The good news is that with every enlargement, those who said it would make us less efficient were proven
Nearing the 1 hour
wrong.
mark, yes.
Take the last few years. We agreed on next generation EU at 27. We agreed to buy vaccines by 27. We agreed on sanctions in record times, also at 27. We agreed to purchase natural gas not only at 27, but already including
So she's listing all
Ukraine,
the things
Moldova,
that
and
were
Serbia.
very difficult to
So
achieve,
it
but that
can be
nonetheless were
done.
achieved.
But we need to look closer
Nonetheless.
at each policy and see how they could be affected by a larger union. And this is why the Commission will start working on a series of pre-enlargement policy reviews to see how each area might need to be adapted to a larger union.
Okay.
We will need to think about how our institutions would work, how the Parliament and the Commission would work. We need to discuss the future of our budget in terms of what it finances, how it finances it, and how it is financed. And we need to understand how to ensure credible security commitments in a world where deterrence matters
So
more
how
than
do
ever.
you
These
you
are
don't
questions
condition
we must
enlargement to
address
treaty
today
change, but
if
then you have
we
to
want
look
to be
at
ready
how
for
enlargement would
tomorrow.
impact different key
And the
topic
Commission
and
will
whether
play its
changes
part.
would be necessary.
And this is why we will put forward our ideas to the leaders' discussion under the Belgian presidency. We will be driven by the belief that completing our union is the best investment in peace, security,
So
and
really,
prosperity
really big push for
our
enlargement there.
continent. So it is time for Europe to once again think big and write our own destiny. Honourable members, Victoria Amelina believed that it is our collective duty to write a new story of Europe. This is where Europe stands today, at a time and place where history is written. The future of our continent depends on the choices we make today, on the steps we take to complete our union. The people of Europe want a union that stands up for them in a time of great power competition, but also one that protects and stands close to them as a partner and ally in their daily battles. And we will listen to their voice. If it matters to Europeans, it matters to Europe. Think again about the vision and the imagination of the young generation I started my speech with. It is the moment to show them that we can build a continent where you can be who you are, love who you want, aim as high as you want, a continent reconciled with nature and leading the way on new technologies, a continent that is united in freedom and peace.
She started a speech
Once
with
again,
UN youth and like she's coming back to this topic
is Europe's moment to answer the call of history. Long live Europe.
Okay, long live Europe. So that was the speech of Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission. Now we will go into the reactions of the political group. First will be Manfred Weber, the President of the EPP, so the Conservative, the center-right basically. Manfred Weber, who comes from Germany. And he has 6 minutes to speak. And like someone said in the chat, like different political groups have different speaking time because the bigger your group is, the more speaking time you have.
Von der Leyen, and now
So they will speak in order of how big they are.
By the representatives of the political group, starting with the EPP group, Manfred Weber.
Manfred, do you approve of what Ursula said? Let's see.
Madam President of the European Parliament, Madam President, European Commission, Spanish Presidency, dear colleagues. Madam President, thank you for your speech today. You're right. The state of the Union is strong. Also, thanks to your leadership and the good cooperation with this European Parliament. Together,
Of course, support
you
to
said
Van
it,
Arjen, who
we
sont
made the
DPP
right
like him.
decisions in the last years. The decision on the European vaccines, not have first and second class Europeans, right. The decision on setting up a recovery fund, right. The decision to make Europe the front runner against climate change, right. The decision to stop EU funds if the rule of law is not respected, right. The decision on Brexit agreement, on sanctions against Russia,
So he's
and the
name-checking
decision
everything
to support Ukraine
that was
and its
done.
accession to the European Union, right. Together we are stronger. That is the message we can deliver to European citizens. Dear Ratche, dear Stefan, I also want to thank you for our successful cooperation during these crucial moments. The political engine of Europe works. The von der Leyen majority made it possible.
The Van der
us,
majority is the EPP,
Europe is
Renew,
people's home.
and the Socialist.
We have to deliver for everyone and leave nobody behind. We must listen to the people's concerned, not lecture them. And we have to build up bridges and not deepen the divisions in our society. And set people's priorities for Europe. I want to speak today about 3 EPP priorities.
Okay,
First,
3 priorities.
this week the European Commission lowered the economic outlook. And inflation is hitting all Europeans hard, the poorest even harder. That's the biggest social question today. We need growth, we need jobs, we need decent incomes, we need prosperity, we need a strong industry. And that is why your proposals today to reduce the bureaucratic burden with a competitive
So he likes
check, with a
the
special
SME
envoy,
announcements
with a
to reduce
moratorium,
by
to
25%
conclude new
the red
trade
tape.
deals and to invest more in innovation is the right way. Competitiveness must be a priority for us. And that's
Classic.
why I also thank you for the consideration to welcome Mario Draghi, to invite Mario Draghi to bring up further ideas. And we welcome the new phase of Green Deal. To be clear, we as EPP supported 32 out of 34 Green Deal files.
So here he's
We
putting
believe in
forward that the
basic
EPP is
idea of
not
Green
against the
Deal.
Green Deal.
It's
even
our
if they-
generation's obligation
fought
to
lately.
deliver. But we also listen to workers, to farmers, to SMEs, to youth. Producing, for example, more food, not less, is our
And the link
answer
with farmers,
to
the
cut
EPP has
inflation on food
been pitching
prices.
itself as the
The
party
EPP
of
is
farmers ahead of the
party,
elections.
And we are the party of the rural areas. Innovating
They are the party of the rural areas.
Innovating more, not selling our technologies to China, is our answer to lead a world free of CO2. We want a European Green Deal, not a Chinese one. We don't want to see, as you said, Chinese electric vehicles benefiting from our ambitious climate approach. We have to think more in business, not in prohibition models for our industry. We need green jobs for Europeans. And we have to be stronger and tougher when it comes to trade. Tougher because we need to activate now our trade defense instruments and to avoid a second solar panel attack from
So
China.
here is a bit more
as
like
you said
the
it today.
EU
And
must
yes,
protect itself from
also stronger on
outside
trade
attacks.
to build up a union of democracies founded on trade with Mercosur, Australia, India, Africa and others.
So
For us,
the
trade
Western
and values goes
democratic
hand in
world
hand.
was band together to face
And, dear
China, to
friend,
face Russia, etc., etc.
We have to strengthen our innovation union. Let's pull now the best minds together to be really on the front of innovation when it is about artificial intelligence and cancer research. A
Cancer
second
research,
priority
something
for
that is very
EPP
dear
is
to the
migration.
to
Europe today
Manfred Weber,
Europe
who
today
lost one of the,
welcomes
someone who is
so
turning to
many
cancer.
refugees
So
as
since the beginning of
never
Monday, he's been
before in our
pushing very
history.
much for
Look what we do
European
currently
action on cancer.
for the Ukrainians. We help, we welcome, we protect. That's the European DNA. But on our external borders, we must decide who can enter and who not. The
Migration
state
now.
decides, and not the smugglers decides who can enter into Europe. We welcome, that's why the moratorium of understanding between the European Union and Tunisia, we must work with our neighbours to solve the challenges like we did it also in the past with Turkey. And we must finalise the migration pact. It's a unique, even historic opportunity to give a proper answer. Now it's in our hands. Let's do it. I count again on the von der Leyen majority to achieve this. And the third point I want to mention, what's next for our European project? 25 years ago, the euro was born. Despite many who criticised him, Helmut Kohl had a vision for Europe. What is the euro of today? What is our project? First, Ukraine must win the war. And yes, Ursula, the merit-based approach of enlargement process is key to our approach towards Western Balkans, Moldova and Ukraine.
So
we have to keep
policy.
our promises. But we need to go further. De Gasperi already knew what is needed for a good future. That is why he burst into tears when they told him in 1954 that the European defence community was rejected. I think we have to come back to De Gasperi's idea. We need a European defence union with a defence commissioner, joint European forces on land, sea and air by 2030, and all this embedded into a strengthened NATO as a strong European pillar. That is the leading project of our generation.
So European defense is the next step for European integration, like equal of euro, according to
no fears, not fears, anger, or even hate shall define the debate. Optimism, a vision, values, and the readiness for the next step to become a real European Union is the answer. Let's start today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weber.
Next, Irache Garcia Perez, president of the
Invite
Socialists.
Garcia Perez on behalf of the S&D group to take the floor. 5 minutes.
Okay, so the EPP, like, very happy globally with what Ursula announced
Gracias,
on
President.
SMEs, the Green Deal.
President, this is the last debate of the legislature on the State of the Union, and it's taking place at a time of profound change. President von der Leyen, commissioners, thank you very much for your capacity for dialogue and achieving consensus in the Socialists and Democrats group. We are very proud of having made a contribution and indeed been in a leadership position in terms of in the context of historic decisions that have placed Europe at the heart of our citizens. The response to the financial crisis in 2008, which was weighed down by the lack of coordination and the austerity policy imposed by the right, through to the response to the pandemic and Russia's war against Ukraine, led by social democracy, has been marked by unity and solidarity. Our main priority now has to be to push for re-industrialization to ensure open strategic autonomy with an eye
so big
on
push on
Africa
strategic autonomy, particularly on the industrial side. So
Alongside
continuity of what has been done here now.
We must make progress on the green transition. Curbing the effects of climate change is a legal obligation and a moral obligation. We need to push forward with the reform of the electricity market to accelerate the deployment of renewable energies and reduce electricity prices. And Mrs. von der Leyen, in the face of those who are climate change deniers, we need to
attack on the EPP now.
The silence and send a clear message of support for the Green Deal and commit to pushing through laws on nature restoration.
Big support to the Green Deal in opposition to the EPP, who's been
we are going to
more critical lately to it.
Scrutinizing very closely to ensure that you do indeed follow through on that. To generate wealth and new opportunities, we need to strengthen the social pillar. There, Mrs. von der Leyen, I would have appreciated hearing
social pillar, an important discussion in the Green Deal. How do you make climate transition, the green transition, acceptable for society and particularly lower income categories?
Speculation, equality in employment, a ban on unpaid internships, a minimum living wage, and an anti-poverty strategy with binding targets must become a reality.
Okay, so a number of proposals on social policy.
We must also protect women who suffer gender-based violence. Mrs. von der Leyen, I share your view that no means no, of course. Now the time has come to take a step further and to incorporate violence against women in the European Union's list of crimes. We must not give up on our fight for social justice, because social cohesion not only dignifies people's lives, but also allows us to act with a voice and weight in the world. Today we are united in the face of an aggressor. Putin is a war criminal who will spend his last days in an international court, and the Commission must come forward without further delay with a proposal to invest frozen Russian assets in the reconstruction of Ukraine. We are united, but let us not be complacent. The time has come to strengthen the unity of the European Union, to make it more flexible so that we streamline decision-making processes by moving towards qualified majority voting.
Okay, so removing vetoes and to go into qualified voting at council level?
Destiny with that of the European Union. And while tackling the main challenges, we need to find solutions to other challenges that will mark the future of the European Union. The Pact on Migration and Asylum, to avoid the loss of human lives in the Mediterranean. Mrs. von der Leyen, European taxpayers' money should not be ending up in the pockets of governments who are undermining the fundamental rights of persons.
So she's criticizing the deal with Tunisia there, the migration deal with Tunisia. Because Tunisia has a poor track record on human rights.
Fiscal capacity to face future crises, the reform of tax rules, and greater tax justice, to make an economy that is not only more competitive, but also fairer. Business profits must be used to improve the living conditions of ordinary people, the many, not the few. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in the European Union, a life project that has built the best place for democracy, rights, equality and solidarity. Today, the alliance between the right and the far right.
Okay, so again, attack on the EPP and the attempt some to build an alliance with the ultra-conservative ECR and maybe part of IT.
History will remember you. You cannot...
Pointing to Manfred Weber, clearly.
On this majority, talk about a majority with von der Leyen and then chase votes.
Yeah, so she's accusing the DPP of hypocrisy, of saying, oh yeah, we need to keep the von der Leyen majority with the socialists and the centers, and at the same time you can't do alliance with the far right.
We will continue to build a prosperous, open and inclusive union, a union proud of its plurality and diversity, a union that embraces the rule of law, a union more united and stronger in the fight for equality, social justice, and a union of tolerance and progress. There is always time for a dream. 70 years ago, Europe dreamt of a better future and made it a reality. Today, for another year, we are living that dream. Let us continue making it a reality. Thank you very much.
Okay, now Stéphane Séjourné, President of Renew Europe, so the centrist.
Stéphane Séjourné. For 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, this plenary session on the State of the Union is not just like any other. It's the last one of the term of office. It's the last one before the European elections. And you said it, Madam President, these last 4 years have been some of the most remarkable years in the European Union construction. And Renew Europe has been proud to have been useful, has been assumed responsibility during this period, has brought together pro-Europeans.
So again, put forward the fact that they are kingmakers.
We work with majorities, sometimes different majorities, sometimes more left, more right. Some with the von der Leyen format, with criticism I've noted from my colleague, but we've always made progress in a coordinated fashion to help Europe. So in a nutshell, looking at the spirit of my group, we're proud of our joint achievements, and we hope that these final months will prove useful in the fashion of the last 4 years. But Renew's quite clear on some of the priorities as well. Some of the priorities of my group haven't been taken to their conclusion as yet. I'll come back to that later. If I can start with the positive aspects, I think Europe has proved itself more useful for fellow citizens than ever before. It said that it was present for the pandemic. It was present to face up to aggression of Russia and Ukraine.
So how do you manage to face significant crises that it was not like certain that you would be able to face, such as pandemic in the war in Ukraine?
Exemplary continent when it comes to the environmental transition. We don't need to be ashamed of what we achieved on the ecology and the environment. I don't think any parliamentary chamber in the world has achieved such courageous and ambitious decisions as we have. We stand up for our workers, our companies. The reindustrialization of our continent is now something that's been triggered. It's happening to help our own sovereignty.
Another mention to reindustrialization.
Power. And we're there
After the
for our
SND.
fellow citizens and their rights. The digital Wild West is being tamed. We have European laws to do that. We're going to have specific legislation brought in for the independence of the media. And we are working
very much like
on
taking stock of
security,
everything the EU has done until now, like
on a common defence.
less
The things that need to be
forward-looking
taken to the natural
than the
conclusion,
SND for
Green
now.
Deal is one of those things. Something that remains to be done. You said, Madam President, we need to find a sustainable solution for issues on migration. That's part of the text.
Migration, a big priority for Renew.
With the energy package, we need to have a European industrial answer. Over the past in the 9 last months we have before the elections.
You're right, indeed, they haven't updated the...
And I hope that my group will be heard, because being useful isn't just a question of having regulation for regulation's sake or legislation for legislation's sake. We have to reduce bureaucracy for our citizens and companies, but we also need to make sure that we're investing in a way that will achieve our objectives. It has to be commensurate with those objectives, and the green and digital transitions are important, but they need to be underpinned with laws that are simple, comprehensible and well financed. So, Madam President, to conclude, there's a subject that my group gets angry about sometimes, and that is the defence of our democratic model.
Okay, Renew is angry about democracy.
Welcome the work done by the Commissioner. And turning to the Council as well as co-legislator, we know that sometimes there have been some feet dragging amongst the heads of state and government, and the Europeans don't always meet the expectations of heeding the calls from our Polish judges, our Hungarian judges, independent press and civil society.
A rule of
Italian
reference to Poland and Hungary at the moment.
The entries in the civil registry of children because their mothers happen to be lesbian. My group has called for more efficiency, more simplicity, more reforms. It has always done that. We think that unanimity is a poison. It's toxic. If you imagine the degree of our support for Ukraine is dependent on Viktor Orban.
Direct clash with Viktor Orban, of course, as an argument to push back against the veto.
It's a real danger, not just in political terms, but also in
even if,
economic and social
to be
terms.
fair, Hungary has not vetoed any of the sanction package, etc. But they have done some blackmail.
Being targeted. And that runs counter to our European DNA. I would say even it runs counter to the whole plan we have for our very civilization in Europe. Madam President, you wanted a geopolitical commission, you mentioned that in your speech, and it has, I think, in the course of history, been much more than that. But democracies very rarely die because of exterior threats, they die because of internal threats. Thank you very much for your speech. We share most of what you said, and I hope these
interesting. Like the last thing is interesting because he's basically saying, yeah, okay, fine, there's Ukraine, there's Russia, but the threat for democracy in Europe is within Europe.
It's not without emotion. Having been
Philippe
in this
Lambert's
parliament
co-president of the
for 14
Greens.
years that I'm taking part today in my last State of the Union debate. For 10 years,
For 6
I
minutes
witnessed the
30, so
European
probably
Union
took time from his
blinded
members.
by economic orthodoxy, deaf to the social and climate emergencies.
No, they don't have the speech
But
before.
2019 marked the turning
They don't
point.
improvise, but
For
they
the
have
first
prepared
time in its
things.
history, the European Union made the fight against climate change a top priority. And against all odds, the European Green Deal withstood the pandemic and the war that rocked the European Union. Each time, it was put front and center in our response. We owe very much of this to you, Madam President, to your vision, your persistence, and your leadership. Unsurprisingly, those who never embraced the European Green Deal in the first place are now calling for a pause, a moratorium, to weaken its ambition in the name of protecting our competitiveness, if you see what I mean.
So of course,
To
Greens
them,
go
I say
all
this.
in on the Green Deal in the defense
We
of it.
are not above nature. Humanity is part of nature, whether we like it or not.
And basically attacking the angle that, oh yeah, we need to do the Green Deal in a way that is doesn't threaten competitiveness, etc.
It's not the Greens' hobby horse. It is a question of survival. And this struggle for survival, all too many European citizens are now seeing firsthand. Can you imagine a Greek firefighter walking away from the raging inferno? Or a rescue worker, when floods hit Slovenia, say, let's take it easy? No. They are giving everything they have to get these climate events under control. We owe it to them and to every citizen caught up in the extremes unleashed by climate change to act with all we have. We have waited for too long. So stand firm, Madam President. We cannot content ourselves with just implementing what has already been decided, which in itself is not enough to meet the 1.5-degree warming target. So much remains to be done. Instead of carbon sinks, our agriculture and our forestry have become net carbon emitters. Our land, water and air are so polluted by forever chemicals, heavy metals.
So basically saying, okay, it's very good to pat ourselves on the back for making the Green Deal, but we're already behind the target, the climate targets that we have internationally given ourselves and that we internally gave to ourselves. So we need to do more.
Ecological transition is not just a necessity. It is the single biggest economic opportunity for Europe. Shying away from it would make us followers, also rants, condemned to import the solutions we need from the rest of the world. The key to competitiveness, dear colleagues, is for our economies to embrace the green transition, to support entrepreneurs who want to lead it, and to ditch the rent seekers. This is the surest route to EU prosperity. La viabilité politique du Green
The political viability of the European Green Deal will depend on our capacity to demand more from those who have the most and less from those who have the least.
So the social justice, let's say, of the aspect of the Green Deal.
But the same goes for our societies. Financial crisis, Eurozone crisis, pandemic, war in Ukraine, energy crisis. Every time it's ordinary citizens who foot the bill, whereas those who own capital continue to accumulate. Even Christine Lagarde has said it. Most of the current inflation is due to the massive increase in corporate profits. President, you'll certainly object that social and fiscal justice are the remit of member states, and that's true. But given that in the past the European Commission was able to push governments to adopt unfair reforms, it should also be able to demand that they do what's right.
So a little nod to the Commission pushing on debt rules, on austerity and so on. And say, oh, well, do the same but for justice, social justice.
Financial speculation in the property market. The good news is that financial regulation is an EU competence. So what are you waiting for to deal with this highly charged situation? Like nature, common goods or energy, housing can't be a simple financial asset
taxation issue
left to the vagaries of the market. If we want the environmental transition to be our unifying project, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that our union is first and foremost a community of values. However, everywhere in Europe, fundamental freedoms are in retreat, whether it's people calling the rights of women into question, the underfunding and co-opting of just the judiciary, hyper-concentration of the media, spying on journalists, activists and political leaders, or police violence against demonstrators and people of an ethnic minority background. President, in spite of the legal and financial pressures that you've put on two member states, the backsliding continues and is increasing. As guardian of European law, the Commission will have to redouble its efforts, and not only vis-à-vis Poland and Hungary.
The one that comes first in Article 2 is human dignity. And there's no greater denial of this fundamental value than the way we treat people seeking protection from us.
Migration.
Today, European asylum policy boils down to make Europe a fortress and to rely on autocrats, dictators and failed states to keep refugees and migrants away from our shores. This has made smugglers rich and turned the Mediterranean
So reference to the practice of the EU of passing deal with Turkey,
Madam President,
Tunisia,
I don't share your optimism. The EU Pact on Asylum and Migration does not fundamentally change this deadly logic. Our Union has a duty, a responsibility, and I would even say a need, to take its fair share in welcoming forcibly displaced people. And it can, if we only harness our collective capabilities. Our moral credit is at stake, not least in Africa. For decades, the fear of migration has been instrumentalized by the far right. And now it seems that the fight against climate change has become their new target. But what concerns me even more, Madam President, is the fact that a growing number of your party colleagues are embracing the same strategy, the same language, in the hope probably of bringing voters back into the EPP fold. Several EPP member parties are considering or have chosen to form coalitions with far-right parties. And some of their representatives were not even ashamed to admit to me that they share so much with them in terms of values and program. So in the name of the Greens
reference to the alliance in Italy, in Finland, some temptation in Spain.
Drift away from its values, the values on which the European Union has been founded. Chers collègues, et c'est ma conclusion.
Colleagues, and I'm concluding. The pandemic and the war on a background of climate disruption persuaded the majority of our co-citizens that it's only together that we can tackle the challenges of this century. The European Union has regained credit in their eyes to the point that those, not very many of them, who are calling for their country to leave the European Union no longer dare to do it publicly. We need to stick to our course and ensure that our efforts are fairly distributed. That's how we can make
those who wanted to leave the EU since Brexit, oddly enough, they're like, oh no, that's fine. We don't like the EU, but yeah, still will stay in it.
Anxious about the future, expect no less from us. Let's kindle and maintain their trust. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor now to Richard Legutko for 5 minutes on behalf of the ECR group.
So the ultra-conservative.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, is the EU in better shape today than, shall we say, 20 years ago? The answer is emphatic no.
So we start going into the
Eurosceptic. Paraphrase Shakespeare's Hamlet, something is rotten in the state of the Union.
Okay.
There is more than ever instability, conflict, tension and uncertainty. Let me quote a recent issue of The Economist. Inflation remains hot. Officials
How is that the Greens have 6 minutes, 30 even more? Because
growth outlook,
probably what they did is, so the political groups have a pool of speaking time that then they distribute to their members. So probably what the Greens did is that they took away speaking time from the regular member to give it to their president. So that means that in the end, so the president of the Greens had more time to speak, but the other member of the Greens would have less time to speak because he took some of his time.
The Commission bears some responsibility for the depth of the energy crisis. The migration policy has been a failure, despite the Commission's hustle and bustle and fiery rhetoric. The people smuggling business is thriving, and the disintegration of the social fabric continues. In Western Europe, the number of thefts, robberies and rapes has soared. About 30 rapes for 100,000 inhabitants in France and Belgium, compared to less than 2 in my country.
Yeah, of course he's playing the card. Poland is resisting. Bear in mind that there is elections in Poland soon, mid-October.
It's a costly extravaganza, over 300 billion euros by 2030, with rising living costs, energy bills and other unpleasant aspects of the Commission's and the Parliament's fantasies. The Commission has been unsurprisingly silent on this matter. The last sinister fantasy is the nature restoration law. The curator of these harmful reveries, Mr. Timmermans,
so the nature restoration law was part of the Green Deal that was a big political fight before summer.
In national politics, I hope Dutch voters will give him what he deserves. Another financial extravaganza has been the common debt of 800 billion euros by 2026. We already know the predictions were erroneous. The cost of all this will be at least twice as high.
So he's referring to the common debt that the EU has taken the first time after during COVID as a recovery fund. and
You
the
apparently
cost
calculated
of the
that the
debt has been
markets
rising because
would have had more trust
the interest rates
in
have
the
been rising,
financial credibility
which
of
is
the
becoming
EU
like a
than that of the
big economic
member
question
states.
for the budget.
Unfortunately, you mistook the EU propaganda for the real thing. And finally, politics. When I compare the past Commission with yours, I see a continuous slide towards oligarchy with a growing disregard for any restraints the treaties stipulated. The Commission turned into a partisan machine.
So he accused the Commission of becoming too political
to topple the governments they don't
and
like.
being too openly
You
criticizing
yourself,
some
Madam
members of the
President, threatened
some member states.
Italian voters before the elections. Let me quote you: "If things go in a difficult direction, we have tools," you said. Let me remind you, you don't have any tools.
They do.
to
That's called
interfere
conditionality,
with the democratic process of the nation state.
which is
Mr.
the
Lukashenko
way the
has
Commission can
such
freeze
tools.
access to
You
funds
don't.
if there is a downslide in the respect of the rule of law in the country, which happened in Poland and Hungary. And he's referring to an interview von der Leyen did before the Italian election, where someone asked, "Oh, what will you do if Meloni is elected?" He said, "Well," she said in substance, "if Meloni degrades the state of rule of law in Italy, we have the tool to act."
For one thing, let the Commission stop
Which is true.
juggling with the legal basis, claiming, for instance, that taxes are not taxes but contributions, thus sidestepping the necessary procedures. And perhaps start by providing all the documents relevant to the vaccines deal, including the text messages.
A reference to the text message scandal that concerns von der Leyen, because during the negotiation of the vaccine deal for COVID, she had exchanges with the CEO of a company, a pharmaceutical company, and their question of what they were saying in the text message, and von der Leyen does not give the text message. She deleted it, so we don't know what they say.
And to establish a sort of officially sanctioned indoctrination. For instance, by abolishing certain words, such as Christmas. Yes, you withdrew from this idiotic move. But the fact is that the bureaucrats were planning it. A large bunch of the European Commission had been working on how we should speak and how we should avoid.
So very much like going
Christmas.
into the cultural war kind of thing there.
Simply outrageous. So, but this gives us an insight into how the Commission works, and what we see should be a warning to us all.
I give the floor now to the
So
President
classic,
of the
let's say,
IT
Polish
group, Marco Zanni, for 2.5
ECR
minutes.
stance. And now the chair of the ID, so the far right, Marco Zanni, from the Lega.
Thank you, President. President von der Leyen, I wasn't expecting fireworks from your speech. It was more of an election campaign for you re-standing as president.
Okay, so he's saying that
Even
she's just...
so,
Which, yes
I
and
find
no.
it rather
but,
disheartening to note that the weapons which you talk about as a response to the crisis that the citizens of Europe are living through, what you have at your disposal was rather disappointing. Point by point, the Green Deal, we have a historic opportunity today to be more pragmatic and less utopian. With Timmermans' departure, you have an opportunity.
he's referring to the departure of
get
Frans Timmermans,
that transition
former
back
vice
on
president
the
of the
right
European
track.
Commission and socialist in charge of the Green Deal, who left
Starting
to
with
lead
the
the left
basics.
in the Dutch election mid-November.
Climate change is an area where the problem isn't the EU. The problem isn't European farmers. The problem isn't European businesses. The problem isn't European owners of premises. What we need to do is look at who will be the winners of the transition. The environment, citizens, or will it be China? We need to keep a very close eye on that. You said that it is the Commission's intention to act in relation to this problem with research into combating subsidies. In 2023, does the Commission really need to launch an investigation into that matter? It seems completely clear that China is engaging in unfair competition.
There's
Myself
very
only at
strong
five can see
entire
that.
China,
We need
well,
the
not entire,
Commission
but criticism
to
on
do
China.
its own job to protect our businesses, to impose duties on those who
Which
do
is
not
interesting
respect the
because
rules.
Italy was
second
the only country in the
proposal
EU who had
which you
signed a deal with
announced
China
will
on their Belt and Road
inquire
Initiative,
into the impact
which
of
Meloni right
bureaucracy.
now
I
is
believe
setting
that
aside.
you intending to nominate a kind of special envoy who will be acting as a go-between between you and SMEs. I don't think we need a new envoy.
So he's attacking like
Everyone in this
the addition
room,
of layers of
members,
things.
envoys representing people. We don't need more inquiries and fine words. We actually need less red tape. Businesses are crying out for fewer laws, better implemented, and more freedom. But that appears not to be the European Commission's priority. Final point, immigration. We've heard all sorts of plans and initiatives, but it doesn't appear that the EU really wants to get to grips with that problem. The weight of migratory flows, which is unsustainable, will be borne by a few countries. The EU's line on this is not.
So here is referring in the migration the fact that Italy is a frontline country, so a country that bears among the most of the burden. Like that's where migrants arrive, and Italy has been frustrated for a long time that the rest of the EU doesn't help them.
Then we cannot resolve the problem of redistribution. I hope that over the next few months there will be a change of direction, and we'll be giving more space to what citizens are calling out for rather than new pointless envoys. So I hope that's clear.
Almost final speaker for the main political groups, Martin Sherdowan from the left, so the far left group. Then we'll have someone from the non-attached.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Now,
I'm surprised it's not Menombri who
success
takes the floor.
cannot be measured in soapbox oratory. It's measured by the real-life conditions of the majority of people. And we've heard about the man on the moon moment.
The man on the moon moment is a reference to the Green Deal. That's how Ursula von der Leyen called it in 2019.
Law, climate neutrality, respect and dignity. There's all sorts of watchwords you're using. And basically, you are promising Europeans everything under the sun. But in reality is very different. A simple worker in the EU over the past year has had to take around a 4% hit to their real wages. This worker can no longer afford to take a well-earned holiday with their family because electricity, heating and rent is becoming more and more expensive. They just don't understand the world anymore when you talk about social justice. Single mothers who hear your speech about the child guarantee as being cynical. It's completely cynical because in her daily life as a single mother.
So it basically is saying that there's a double discourse, like von der Leyen promising a lot of things but actually not delivering on social aspects.
Say anything about the crisis in purchasing power, speculation. You didn't stop that. You didn't stop the forced price rises.
Which is true that in the speech there was not much on social policy. Like the only thing that she mentioned, let's say, on the more social aspect was the regarding women, the fight against violence, the regulation on violence against women.
Is your achievement that you need to be judged by. There was a pensioner in my constituency in Eastern Germany. He gets 660 euros a month as his pension. He's had a long life of graft. And it's too little to live off, but it's too much to die for. And this is a case of 1 in 4 pensioners in the EU who cannot enjoy a life of dignity. These pensioners' twilight years are just as many light years away from dignity as this European Commission is from the day-to-day life of most people. So we've seen this House of Europe that's been turned into some sort of ramshackle ruin. Your man on the moon for a long time has been in free fall without a parachute, heading towards the hard ground of reality. What do you do? Well, we see you clutching onto the broken energy market, the tax break, without any economic rhyme or reason. We see this policy of just cutting payments, cutting money. You're stymieing investments for the future by doing this.
He makes reference to the
the
Green Deal punchline, the Man on the Moon, but he doesn't speak of the Green Deal then, so it's a bit weird.
A political denial of reality. And people are incandescent, rightly so. Same time as you're plagued by existential worries, we see energy companies and food corporation housing companies making huge profits, also the armaments industry. And just wonder, Madam President, how you can sleep at night. 11,000 people have died on the external borders of the EU since 2019. 7 die every single day. And you talk about respect and dignity and humanity and compassion. Well, looking at the deportation camps, the destruction of families, militarization of the border police and lethal pushbacks have nothing to do with respect and dignity. So stop with your soapbox oratory. Let's have policies once and for all that's going to help the majority of people.
Yeah, so whole thing is about like the double discourse of von der Leyen and all the things she has done, but actually like on many things she puts under the rug the negative kind of aspects of it.
Peaceful, then you have to vote against the policies of this commission. Thank you.
Okay, I will let the next one. Von der Leyen will speak after.
Closing the list for request for catch the eye.
Grazie, Presidente.
Thank you, President. President von der Leyen, in these
so she's from the non-attached, so the MEPs who do not have a political group. So it's a mishmash of far-right, far-left MEPs.
But allow me to give you a piece of advice. In this last year in office, do not listen to the sirens coming from European capitals, but concentrate solely on the common good and the future of the European Union.
Well, it's a wonder what they do in Parliament.
Your goal should not be the European Council.
Here they're reacting to what the Commission is saying, so
when we must
it's logical that they say, okay, the Commission, who proposes the law,
launch Europe, do not take
doesn't do enough
the
or
austerity
does well
of 2011,
in their opinion.
2012 as a model, but the next generation of 2020. The Stability Pact cannot be a copy-paste of past mistakes, but must become the springboard for
fiscal
a greener,
reforms,
more technological, more social and fairer Europe. President, the war in Ukraine is the greatest threat to the futures and lives of European citizens. Let us bring it to an end. Only diplomacy and dialogue can bring peace back to the continent.
And
not
final speaker, before I go more in a small debrief, is Ursula von der Leyen, who comes back to answer to the political groups.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank you very much for the replies and the discussion that we have started here together. As you know, with the State of the Union, it is not only the speech to be delivered, but there is a letter of intent that I've put forward, and there are a limited number also on additional initiatives. Let me address some of them that have been mentioned here. My first point is on the topic of rule of law. The rule of law is the glue of our union. And we've brought forward the historic Next Generation EU package because we knew it was of paramount importance that we had to invest in the European Union. This is common European Union taxpayers' money, and therefore there's a strong obligation that we connect it with necessary reforms in the respective member states. And if in member states there are issues of the rule of law, we've connected it to the investment of next generation.
So she's saying, yeah, the
And it is
ultimately, if there's no
absolutely
rule of law, it's EU taxpayer
not
money that will be
acceptable
misused. So there is an interest for
that
the
a
EU
member
to act
state
there and prevent this money from being
wants
misused.
to access the funds of Next Generation EU without having the reforms that we have agreed upon when closing the contract for Next Generation EU. So, if you want to have taxpayers' money as investment in your member state, you have to abide to the rule of law.
And they say, okay, Poland, Hungary, etc. They sign conditions to be able to access the money, including on the rule of law. If you don't fulfill these conditions, you will not have the money.
First of all, let me
you
step
committed to that. So it's not the Commission; it's your own commitment.
At Ukraine,
which was a smart move back then
of
von der Leyen.
Peace in Ukraine, but it has to be a just peace and a lasting one. And for that, Ukraine needs security guarantees. Kiev must be able and have the capabilities to deter a new Russian attack. And here Europe comes
about
into
Ukraine, but even
play
if no one brought the
by
topic up.
ensuring Ukraine's long-term security, with strong implications on our defense industry. Europe's defense industry is running at maximum speed. We know this, but it is not enough, because to empower Ukraine's deterrence, we must step up the production of our capabilities, military capabilities. And this is what we're doing with ASAP, for example, the Act in Support of Ammunition Production.
So she's putting forward the initiative of the EU to reinforce the military industrial capacities to produce ammunition, weapons, etc.
This ammunition topic, air defense, maritime, space, and cyber, for example. And these capabilities
focus on Thierry Breton, the Commissioner in charge of defense policy.
No single member state can alone develop them. So they require European cooperation, not only on research and development, but also on the industrial front. And this is why we will work on a European defense industry strategy to look into how we can support our industry, ramp up the production of critical equipment, of course in synergy with NATO. This is NATO.
That's a bit of an answer to the PP remark on demanding like a stronger European Union defense.
And giving our full support for Ukraine. And my third point I wanted to address, because it was mentioned by many of you, is the European Green Deal. Politics is always also personal. During this mandate, since 2019, I was blessed with my family that I had 3 grandchildren. I was not a grandmother before that. And since my mandate, the experience of welcoming 3 little babies to this world changes also the deep conviction that you have for the future of these children, because my perspective is a very limited one. But if I look at these children, or babies, toddlers that they are, when they are in 2030, they will be in school age. In 2050, perhaps they want to have a family and children. And now I, of course, over and over ask myself, and you do the same, will they have a spring, a summer, a fall, and a winter, like we had it when we were children? How will their future be? Will they be able to have an own family? How will the world be? And I know this is definitely linked also on how we will decide today about the European Green Deal. So what I can only say here in front of you, honorable members, is I am deeply, personally committed to the European Green Deal, because I know it is paramount for our survival, but it is also paramount for our future prosperity if we make it, and we can make it together if we stand united. Thank you very much.
Okay, so she reassured that she's still committed on the Green Deal, but then on the announcement that she made was very still. No, she's not confirmed she was running it, but we're not expecting it. Okay, this one, the real last one, is the council reacting to the Spanish presidency. And then I'll do a very quick debrief, and then I will have to run to the other live stream with the European Federalist.
President of the Commission.
So the member states.
Von der Leyen, honourable members of the European Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, I'm appearing today on behalf of the Council in the House of European Democracy. The European Parliament, all of you, are the reflection of Europe's diversity and plurality, and are also the Union's most direct contact with its citizens. I would like to start by thanking President von der Leyen. Thank you for your speech and your leadership throughout this.
Yeah, I will give you a link.
legislature.
I will
It has
give you a
been
link. I was actually looking for it.
few years in Europe with the pandemic, and now with Russia's aggression against Ukraine. But the Union has been able to rise to them, President, thanks to you. Thanks also to the Commission, and thanks, of course, to this Parliament and the members of the European Parliament. This is a decisive time for European unity, and the conflict in Ukraine has made the need for European values very clear. On the first day of the Spanish presidency, the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said a clear message to the Ukrainian parliament in Kyiv.
Which is funny because he represents the Spanish presidency, but the Spanish presidency would traditionally, at the beginning of the mandate of their presidency, come to the parliament to present their priority. They still haven't done it. Pedro Sanchez still hasn't come to the parliament to present his priority because of the Spanish election. So it's a bit weird to have the Spanish presidency. That's actually the first intervention of the Spanish presidency
At the same time, we're at a decisive
is
moment
for the SOTEU. It's not even the
European
prime minister
calendar.
who came
The Spanish
before.
presidency is the last full presidency before the European elections and the next European legislative cycle. We will have to negotiate a large number of dossiers which are key to European integration and which represent significant progress in social, environmental and economic terms, because they have a positive impact on the well-being of our fellow citizens. It is essential that relations between the institutions should continue to be as fluid as possible. Those relations between Commission, Parliament and Parliament are vital to the Council and the Presidency being successful. Aware of this, the Spanish presidency has begun with the utmost determination, demonstrating the deep pro-European vocation which drives the Spanish government. The
So a very classic council speech say yes, we will cooperate, yes, we're very pro-European, blah, blah, blah. So,
full dedication of this presidency to move the European project forward with ambition.
he can't exactly
Madam President, I'm pleased
react
to note that the main
on the
elements
announcement,
which you
the
have
substance.
highlighted
He
here
doesn't have
today
necessarily a mandate to do
are
so.
in line with the priorities of the Spanish presidency. The first is green reindustrialization and open strategic autonomy. It's not about building Fortress Europe. International openness has been and is highly beneficial for the European Union. However, this openness has on occasion given rise
Thanks
to
for coming. Hope to
excessive
see you
dependence in
next time.
sectors which are key to the
And
well-being
I
of our
stand by
citizens.
the fact that my
We've
memes
seen
are
this in
great.
health during the COVID-19 pandemic, which brought so much suffering in the form of unbearable human losses. We saw this in energy following Russia's unjustified and lawless invasion of Ukraine. In both cases, we faced these
Keep you an
great
eye on the
challenges
time,
with more
because
union,
still want to do
because
a conclusion
together
before I have
we
to
are
run.
stronger. That is why, in the Spanish presidency, we are grateful for the responses led by the European Commission, which are essential to face all these challenges. We also welcome the 2023 Strategic Foresight Report. With a vision of the future, we can continue to work together to build more Europe. We will dedicate one of the major events of the presidency to this objective, the Granada
Council
Summit.
speech are never like the most
Forthcoming on the
exciting
6th of
stuff.
October. To achieve this, we must diversify and strengthen ties
The nature
with our
of their
most reliable partners.
job,
In
of
this
their
regard, I
position,
would like to
unfortunately.
thank President von der Leyen and this Parliament for your involvement with the Latin American and Caribbean region. The EU-CELAC summit was a collective success which we hope will be long-lasting and bring long-term benefits to all Europeans. The second priority is to make progress on the green transition and environmental adaptation. Curbing the climate crisis and environmental degradation is not only an unavoidable necessity, but also a great opportunity to drastically reduce our energy dependence and our electricity bill.
So again, the whole topic of
Making
strategic
European companies more
autonomy,
competitive,
not relying on
energy
China, on
poverty
Russia,
among our
on various
citizens. It
natural
is also
resources
an opportunity to
and
create quality
technologies.
jobs by boosting the circular economy. The reform of the design of the electricity market, the gas and hydrogen package, the regulations on the conservation and restoration of biodiversity, and the Net Zero Industry Act are part of the Spanish presidency's core dossiers. Thirdly, we need to promote greater social and economic justice. We need a more competitive economy, without a doubt. But we also need a fairer and more caring economy.
I apologize to the council, but I will
And
interrupt
there's
him
no
to
contradiction.
do a bit of a debrief because I'm looking at the time. It's 11:10. 11:30. I'm starting streaming with the Federalists. So I want to have a short discussion with you about what you thought of the speech, the highlights, these sort of things. So give me your reaction, of course. Did I do well? I was afraid I stayed a bit too silent sometime, but at the same time, I mean, it's a speech, so we need to listen. So give me feedback. But yeah, it was, I mean, what we were expecting to an extent at this speech from Ursula von der Leyen. A lot of taking stock exercise, what all the good work that the Commission has achieved in the past 4 years, and all that. We hit all the high notes, lots of things on the Green Deal. China was very strong, like she name-checked quite a lot China. Migration was touched on, but I thought she would speak a bit longer about that. She was a bit quick on that. For me, like the point which I was, two things there that are were particularly interesting for me, at least. I thought, or notable on the Green Deal, where she sends all the signals to the EPP, say, okay, we have the Green Deal, it's important, the Green Deal, but we need to do the Green Deal in cooperation with competitiveness, with companies, with farmers. So it's showing that, okay, we need to. She moved away from like on the Green Deal, apart from the very beginning of the part on biodiversity, where she said, okay, we have forests, we need to, there's catastrophe, etc., etc. It was very much, we need innovation, we need to build that with the farmers, with agriculture. It's not one or the other, this sort of thing. So clearly sending signals to the EPP, say, okay, message heard, you're pissed off, you think that the Green Deal is going a bit too far, it doesn't take into account the economic needs. So I will look into that. And second thing for me that was a bit unexpected was the whole discussion on enlargement and treaties, because she took a very clear stand on saying, which I was not expecting, saying we need to enlarge Europe. Fine, everybody agrees with that, but we don't condition this to a treaty reform. We don't need to reform the treaties before we enlarge the EU further. We can do it after. We need to do a review of, maybe see the impact on this or that policy. But she basically rejected the approach that is pushed by Germany, by France. So big member states, more on the west side of Europe, who want to force a revision of the treaty before enlarging the EU, which I thought was interesting. It was very clear the position that she took on that. She also reject like the idea pushed by Charles Michel, so the Presidential Council, who said, "Oh yeah, we need to commit to enlarge by 2030." She said, "No, it's merit based, so when they are ready, they will join." But that's it. We don't put a condition that we need to reform ourselves before they can join. So for me, like, that was something that was rather interesting on what she said. I'm just looking at my little list of notes. A lot of discussion, of course, on on China, independent strategic autonomy. So that's the classic highlights, let's say. And on the political groups, I mean, we had the classics. I mean, the EPP seemed fairly happy about the speech of von der Leyen. I mean, to be fair, it was ticking a lot of boxes for them. What was interesting is at the end, like Manfred saying, okay, we need to look at what will be the next big phase for the EU. Like we had the Euro, like the big project for European integration, and he was saying, okay, the next step could and should be European defense. By 2030, we need to have a stronger European defense policy. Which von der Leyen came back on a bit at the in a reaction, say, okay, yes, we are already doing things in this stage, mostly on the industrial part. It was nice to see the treaty change being spoken about, at least positively, by the bigger European parties. Yeah, I mean the big political parties all support the idea of treaty change, like the EPP, the Renew, SND, the Greens. Even GUE, to an extent, they all support the idea of treaty change. It's the main obstacle to the idea of treaty change is on member state side, and then without even speaking of what do you change in the treaties. So that was interesting. The EPP took some flack from the Socialists, from the Greens. Renew didn't say anything, but yeah, mostly from NCD and the Greens on their possible alliance of well, alliance is a strong word, but the stronger links between the EPP, so the center right, with part of the far right, so the more the ultra conservative, and that's a trend that we already see in a number of member states, in Italy, in Finland, in Spain. So I'm thinking about other countries where there are like very strong links. In the East, I wonder if Romania has something, but I'm not certain, so I don't want to say something stupid, but there's something wrong. But yeah, the EPP took some flack. Same on the Green Deal, that the EPP it was called a climate denier by the Socialists, which was pretty harsh, because I mean, the EPP is not climate denier per se. That's not true, even if they're not for as ambitious Green Deal as the EPP, as the SND or the Greens might want. Anything that you need me to clarify before I put a temporary end to the stream? Because I continue. I already sent the link in the chat, but I'm going at it from 11:30 on the YouTube channel of the European Federalists to discuss the speech, and also the interviews of MEPs on their reaction. So you can continue the cycle with me on by just going on YouTube. I will repost the link. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this stream, like to follow the speech on the State of the Union here with me, and the main reaction on of the political groups. I enjoyed it. I hope you did. You thought it was interesting and helpful. I wish that they were not that late, because we could have done like a proper debriefing of it. But well, that's how it is, unfortunately. When was the vote on treaty change convention again? You mean in Parliament? Oh, that was a while ago that they made a vote about that, but I can't remember the date. But that's last year even, I think. The Parliament like made a formal demand to the Council, but I don't remember the exact date. In any case, I hope that you enjoyed. As always, if it's not already the case, do follow. That's always appreciated. If you have a Prime lying around, send it my way. Otherwise, I will see you hopefully in a bit from 11:30 on the YouTube stream of the European Federalist. Here is the link, so you just have to go there to see me again in a few minutes. Otherwise, for the French, we do a debrief with MEP Valérie Hayé at 7 o'clock tonight. And otherwise, I will see you for the news review tomorrow and on Sunday. So yeah, thanks again for being here with me. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you very soon. I hope so. Otherwise, I wish you all a good end of the day, and see you next time. And don't forget to follow me, of course, on my other social media, Discord, etc. You have all the things. It's in the link there. happy SOTEU Day, and see you in a bit, guys. Bye bye.